Right, so Mayor Martin, we do have, oh, looks like everybody's connected now. Okay, you can begin the meeting, sir.
All right, and welcome everyone. Sorry for the technical difficulties again. I don't know what's going on, but seeing more and more of it all the time. But anyways, we'll call this meeting to order. It's 9:30, April 20th. Welcome to our virtual meeting. I'll ask everyone to turn off their cell phones or put them on vibrate to help out with the meeting. And I'll remind council of the declaration of pecuniary interest if it arises. I haven't seen any written notices of pecuniary interest, but if there is any, you should declare them now or when the part comes up in the meeting. Anyways, the next thing we have here are minutes from the April 6th meeting. I'll look for a motion to receive them if they're in order.
Motion to receive.
Okay, moved by Deputy Mayor Dro, seconded by Councillor Ellis. All in favor? And that's carried. All right, I'm going to look for a motion to go into a public meeting for rezoning, for zoning bylaw amendments. We do have 4 of them, I think there is altogether. So I'll look for a motion to move by Councillor Pomeroy, seconded by Councillor Webb. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, and I don't have my notes with me. I didn't bring them over for these 4 zoning bylaw amendments, but the first one we have here is for Matthew and Colleen DeMille, part of lot 17, concession 5, having the municipal address of North Shore Road, Peninsula Road, Methuen Ward. The wording that goes along with that, Laura, I don't have it with me. I was going to do it for all of them, just one reading for all of them. Do you have it there?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Martin. I can read that one, and then I'll read one, and then if you just want to mention the names going forward, that covers them all.
That would be great.
All right, so zoning bylaw amendment. This is a statutory public meeting held under Section 34 of the Planning Act. The owners of our first application are Matthew and Colleen DeMille. The property is described as part lot 17, concession 5, having a municipal address of North Shore Road, Peninsula Road, Methuen Ward, having a property roll number of 153101007241100. Any person may attend the public meeting and or make verbal or written representation, either in support of or in opposition to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. If a person or public body does not make oral submission at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen before the proposed zoning bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen to the local planning appeal tribunal. If a person or public body does not make an oral submission at the public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen before the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is passed, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the local planning appeal tribunal, unless in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to add the person or public body as a party. If you wish to be notified of the passing of the zoning bylaw amendment, you must make a written request to the Township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen.
Thank you, Bob. And that'll go for all of the zoning amendments. And yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. So the first one we have is DeMille. And like I said, it's part of lot 17, concession 5, having the municipal address of North Shore Road, Peninsula Road, Methuen Ward. Laura, did you want to introduce this one?
Sure. So thank you very much and good morning to council. The purpose and effect of this report is to present for the consideration and requisite approval of council an application to amend comprehensive zoning bylaw number 1995-42 as amended to rezone the property from open space to rural and seasonal residential. The recommendation is that, subject to any new information or public comments received prior to or at the statutory public meeting, the draft bylaw be passed as presented. This application is to rezone a large 106-acre parcel to 104 acres of rural and 2 acres of seasonal residential. When the municipality underwent the exercise of reviewing the comprehensive zoning bylaw in 2012, it was determined that this property had been incorrectly deemed open space, and it was revised in the schedules for that bylaw to be considered rural. Because that 2012 comprehensive zoning bylaw is currently under appeal, we have to act on the 1995 bylaw, which keeps it as an open space zone. So the applicant is requesting that the property be zoned rural, primarily with a 2-acre parcel zoned seasonal residential for the ability to put a cottage on the waterfront area of Cashbog Lake. There is over 300 meters of shoreline, and the property owners have and will continue to work with Crow Valley Conservation Authority to determine the most appropriate location for a cottage that will be back a minimum of 100 feet from the water and will have little to no impact to Cashbog Lake or the mouth of the river that's right in that area. Further, this application will not, and I just need to absolutely clarify this, under any circumstance result in backlotting. So that was some of the concern that residents in the area had. I believe there may have been a plan for something like that a number of decades ago, but that has since basically been banned in the county's OP, our OP, in the province doesn't like backlotting either. So that would have to be a separate application. Should this be successful, this application today, the property owners would be permitted 1 cottage at the waterfront, and they would have the possibility of a permanent dwelling with frontage onto the municipally maintained roads, although no development for that rural portion has been discussed. So this property maintains the characteristics of both the rural and seasonal residential zones. An open space zone, which I discussed before, is not considered to be appropriate for the lot, and it was determined in 2012 to be the same. Further, this application does conform with the intent of the provincial policy statement and growth plan, as well as the local and county official plans. There was 1 letter of opposition, and I have received a number of phone calls from residents just getting some clarification on what is being proposed. But it's my recommendation that this application be approved.
Okay, thank you, Laura. Yeah, I can imagine there was a number of questions with regards to this. It's a property that it's been around for a long time as far as with no designation on it. The one question I had was with the rural, like it seems like it's looking for two names to it as far as rural and seasonal residential. Normally they're waterfront access or whatever. This one seems a little different. Is there a reason why? Or
yeah, so the seasonal residential zone is meant to be for properties that are relatively small. So typically no more than 6 or 7 acres at the most. A rural designation is appropriate for a property that has 106 acres. So that's the most appropriate. But that zone does not permit a cottage. That's not to say that if this were to be rezoned rural, that the property owners couldn't put a house down by the water. That would fit our bylaw just fine. But this kind of tidies it up and makes it so that the seasonal residential, which has greater restrictions in terms of accessory structures and that type of thing, it tightens that part up so that if there's a cottage to be built, it's very restricted. And then the rural property is, at this time, it's not proposed to be developed.
okay, and one last question before I open up to council is the Crow Valley part of it there. It is a sensitive area for that lake as far as a pickerel spawning ground is right there in the river. I don't know whether Crow Valley looks at that sort of stuff, but it is a concern for a lot of people that a building going along that river causing problems in the future. But I don't know if they look at that sort of thing, but
so Crow Valley does look at that type of thing. Their main focus is shoreline, but it is also watershed management, and that's part of the watershed. So they do take that into consideration, and the property owner is very much aware of the sensitivities on the property and will be diligently working to be in an envelope that wouldn't be impacting that. And that would be alongside Crow Valley Conservation Authority's recommendations.
okay, thank you. All right, I'll open up to council. Any questions? Go ahead, Larry.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I'm looking at the mapping here for the new lot that you're describing here. How do you access it? I'm looking at roads, but I don't see anything depicting a road to that piece of property.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, the seasonal residential could be accessed either by water, or they could work with Crow Valley Conservation Authority to put a driveway in to get to the cottage area. But Crow Valley is quite strict about having no roads put through wetland areas. So that road being put in, driveway would be done in accordance with their policies to avoid wetlands.
Okay,
Thank you, Laura.
all right. Okay, go ahead, Dave, and then I'll have to call the question as far as anybody in opposition, anybody for, but go ahead, Dave.
You go ahead first, Mayor Martin, I'll
Right.
call that question.
All right, so I'll ask it. I can't really see everybody on the screen, but if there's anybody wishing to speak in opposition of this application, now's the time. I don't know if Bianca, if there's this computer I'm not familiar with, but anyways, I'll ask for the second time if there's anybody wishing to speak in opposition of this application. And third time, anybody in opposition? Hearing none, I'll go ahead, Barry.
Yeah, I had the same concerns as you, Jim, with the river and the spawning area. How do we know that it's going to be rectified? And this owner, if he sells, maybe the next guy don't care. So that is a big concern for Kosh Lake.
Okay, I'll ask if there's anybody in favor of this application, then I'll open it up to council. So is there anybody wishing to speak in favor of this application? I don't know if the applicant's here, but is there anybody wishing to speak in favor of this application?
Yes, could I speak?
Yep, go ahead. You're the applicant?
So I am the applicant, yes.
Okay, did you have any?
I would just say that, yeah, obviously I'm in favor of the application. I don't need to reiterate that, but I would just talk a little bit about, ourselves. My wife and I and our family, we live here in Havelock-Belmont-Methuen, so we are permanent residents within the township. And we're very stewardship-oriented people. We're both biologists by training. I'm a fisheries biologist. My wife is an aquatic biologist. And so we're also, we do believe, heavily in sustainable use. We like to fish, hunt, trap, and so recreation is an important part of what we do. But we do that sustainably. And also we're working right now to do a forest management plan for this property. It's really a stewardship plan. It's essentially how do you take care of the property over the long term. And so we are very, very cognizant. Fishing and fisheries are really important to us, as well as the overall ecology of the lake, as well as the land itself. It's the reason we bought the property in the first place. We want the ability to put a seasonal cottage on that lake so that we can enjoy it a little bit more directly, stay there on the property, and use that property for recreation. And so we do know that there are those concerns. We've talked to many of our neighbors about how they've used the bay and the land and the river around there. And we know that for many years, the property itself has been, I don't want to say neglected because I don't know about the specific use and the people's use of the land. But for the most part, from what we've seen, there's been a lot of ATV use right in the wetlands, doing figure eights. And we blocked those trails. We put up no trespassing signs to try and keep that kind of destructive recreational use out of the property. And so we're already taking steps to do that, as well as on the shore of the river. There's heavy erosion, and it's from where people have come up, created a trail, use it as a lookout spot. But it's not only a dangerous spot, but it's also has kind of granular granite that is going down into the river. And so we blocked access to that to try and keep people from going up there. And so we're just trying to do all of those little things. We keep that stewardship ethic with not only our building, but our use of the land as well, with limitations on how we would cut trees, how we would develop the land in any way. We obviously abide by all the regulations that the township has, as well as the Conservation Authority.
All right, thank you, Mr. DeMille. So I'll ask one more time. Is there anybody wishing to speak in favor of this application? And hearing none, I'll open it up to council. So Deputy Mayor Giroux, you are first, and I see Councillor Webb's hand up.
Thank you, Mayor Martin. Just a couple of questions for Laura, for myself and the viewers, clarifications perhaps, or questions. In our official plan, you stated that if it had been passed, this would have been classed now as rural. So we're going through the process now. Was there a reason why the 2 acres where the applicant wishes to have a vacation property, was there a reason that just that portion and left the other 104 acres as open space? Why did we do it all at once? That's my question.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, it was with the zoning exercise in 2012, and the entire property was determined to be rural at that time. So the applicant today is looking for the ability to put a seasonal dwelling, which is not permitted in the rural zone, on this parcel. So had that gone through and this property would have been rural, the property owner would have been able to just, as of right, apply for a building permit to put a cottage 100 feet from the water, or a house 100 feet from the water. This tightens it up. It makes the restrictions a little bit harder to meet, so that the waterfront area is protected even more. So that's the seasonal residential zone is more restrictive than the rural zone in terms of sizing, for accessory structures, for footprint, that type of thing. So we wanted to limit the amount of development that was happening on the waterfront and leave the rest of the parcel as rural, so that the property owner can do forest management. If they ever wanted to put a little hunt camp in there, that would be permitted, that type of thing.
Thank you for that piece, Laura. I have another question in regards to the, where should I put this? The backlogging. What do you consider backlogging? Directly behind the 2 acres?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, the County of Peterborough determines backlotting to be lots created without waterfront access, but for waterfront purposes. So that would be cottages that don't have direct access onto water or don't have deeded access. And that's not the intention here. The intention is to have one cottage and the ability to use the remainder of the property as a rural property.
Thank you for that. And with that, I'll add one thing. It won't hinder anyone else from building on the property at some point in time. It just won't be water access backlog.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, because we have a provision in our zoning bylaw that if there are 2 zones on one property, we have to give them the full suite of permitted uses per zone. So if you have a rural property and a seasonal residential property, you're permitted all of the uses of a seasonal residential property on that portion of the zone, and all of the permitted uses of a rural property on the remainder.
Thank you.
Okay, so
Clear.
yeah, and I think some of the things that Dave asked were my concerns as far as Mr. DeMille is. It's encouraging to hear him speaking and you know, his value in the land. My concern is what happens after and what stays with the property, as far as if it ever transfers to someone else and they decide they want to put something else along because it's a township road. Is it considered backlotting? But I think you kind of answered that. Barry, Councillor Pomeroy, go ahead.
Yeah, through you. Does our road run through that property?
Sorry, could you repeat that, Councillor Pomeroy?
Does our road run through that property?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, it does, right through the property.
No concerns there?
There are some concerns in that I believe the municipality does not own that portion of the road at this time.
Okay, so it's not deeded into there?
So, in terms of deeded, do you mean,
Well, the access for the township road hasn't got the 66 feet through there?
no? So that's something that we have been working to tidy up in the municipal office. And the property owner has been willing to work with us to provide the road back to the municipality because we do maintain it year round.
Okay, Barry, go ahead.
Yeah, that was my concern, and, but if you're working with Matt on that, I think it should be cleared up first before we proceed. That's my own feeling, because we're cut off right at the start on that road.
Yeah, that would be my concern is to, and I appreciate Matt working with us, but I just wonder we should finish that part first before we carry on here to make sure everything's in order. Otherwise, we don't have access to the rest of our roads. So, so is there a way of tying those together as part of this to save coming back again?
So we are not permitted to put conditions on a zoning bylaw amendment, but we could work with the property owner to develop an agreement until we have the formal transaction done, so that we've got ourselves covered up until that point, because I believe it can take a little bit of time to transfer the land like that.
Okay. All right, Deputy Mayor Giroux.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to be clear, does our road traverse this property in two directions?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes.
And it goes across North River?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so the recommendation here was to approve this. As long as I do worry about, go ahead, Barry. I'm just looking for.
I can't approve this personally. We're cut off. That has to be looked after first, whether we make arrangements or whatever, but it has to be done before, we go ahead with the rest of this, because we could be in a big bind. And let's clean it up as we go. And this is one matter that has to be cleaned up, I think, before we go any further.
Yeah, it's too bad this wasn't cleaned up years ago. I didn't realize that when we call it a township road, we don't even own the road. So it's really unfortunate that it's getting hung up here. Totally agree. Deputy Mayor Giroux has something, and then I see Mr. DeMille's hand up. If council is okay, we can hear from him again, but go ahead, Dave.
Thank you, Mayor. I think after hearing both sides here and understanding that the applicant would like to move forward, but to protect ourselves, that's a proper time, whenever that is, make a motion to defer this.
Okay. All right, then, and we can do that anytime, but is council okay if we just hear from Mr. DeMille one more time here? And okay, go ahead, Matt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And the one thing that I would say is that I have a request in with the municipality since June of 2019 to clear up the roads issue. And I was deferred in doing that and told to move ahead with my zoning amendment application. And so I would just express my sincere frustration with the fact that I've been trying to get the roads issue dealt with for almost 2 years so that I wouldn't run into this when I put the zoning amendment forward, and that this would potentially, depending, because it will take some time, will really frustrate the plans that we have for the construction of a vacation dwelling. So I just wanted to make sure that the council was aware, and there is written communication going back that length of time. So and I would say probably almost on a 6-week basis. We met with Daryl Teague at the time and Sonia and had those discussions and carried those right through. And so that's the only thing that I would say is that is frustrating, that we have been trying to clear that up, because we felt the same way you did about the uncertainty associated with that and wanted to deal with it.
Okay, all right, thank you. So Laura, what's your thoughts here? Like councils, and I'm with them as far as nervous about this, but it sounds like they've been trying to deal with it and it got held up. As long as we're covered, I need to feel comfortable that we're covered here as far as which I don't think we have any. No matter what, even if you don't approve this, he owns the property and he owns the road. So, you know, to hold him up on this, I don't know whether it's going to solve anything, because we haven't got a lot of say there anyway. So
we do have written confirmation from the property owner that he's willing to give us the road portion. We did recommend that he move forward with this because it's been held up, the taking over of the road by the municipality, and they're eager to get going. And it, like Mr. DeMille said, it has been ongoing since 2018. So I would recommend moving forward. It doesn't change that the property still houses a portion of our road, either way. And we, like I said, we do have the written documentation of that, that he's willing to give us the property of the road. Well,
I think like Deputy Mayor Giroux said, and I don't want to hold this up. I don't want to hold anyone up, and it's too bad that it's been held up for as long as it has. I know we try to do our planning meetings on the second meeting of the month, but I just wonder if there was an opportunity to defer this to the next meeting, just so we can get more clarification here, rather than sit here and discuss it. It would be nice to hear a little more here personally, but I don't want to hold it up any longer than the next meeting. Is that possible? And would that suit council? What's your thoughts? Deputy Mayor Giroux, you mentioned about deferring. You've heard some more things here that I'm not sure if you're still there or not, as far as.
Thank you, Mayor Martin. I'll speak to it one more time. It is a forest road, but I'm not comfortable as it sits today. We don't have to pass this, actually. We can go to court or do whatever we want to do. But as I said, I don't want to hold the applicant up either. But I do want legal opinion before this moves forward. I want something in writing for all of council that this is going to happen. So I'm making a motion to defer until the earliest possible time it can go back to council with the T's crossed and the I's dotted. Simple as that.
Okay. All right. So that's the motion, that we defer this to as soon as possible to come back with in writing where we go with this. So moved by Deputy Mayor Giroux. Councillor Pomeroy, go ahead.
Yeah, I have to agree with Deputy Mayor Giroux, and if there's any way that we can speed this up, like written permission from Matt on guaranteeing us the right of way that is there now across the properties. You know, we could expedite this, I think, but like I'm along with Deputy Mayor Giroux there, we have to clear up the front part before we go any further. And I'll second the motion.
All right, so seconded by Councillor Pomeroy. And yeah, the key thing here is not to hold it up too long. It's if we could move with this as soon as possible, and because I appreciate everything that's said here, but it's just a lot of that stuff needs to be in writing. So I have a mover and a seconder. I'm going to call the question unless there's any other questions with regards to this motion. All in favor of the motion? And that's carried. So Laura, if we could try and get that done as soon as possible, and like I say, as much as the second meeting is usually planning, if we could try and get this back for the next meeting, that would be appreciated, and I'm sorry that it's been taking so long. Anyways, we'll move on to the next planning report, and it's Leora and Wayne Grattan, and it's part of Lot 30, Concession 6, having a municipal address of 39 Fire Road 75D, Methuen Ward. I'll open it up to you, Laura.
Thank you very much. So the purpose and effect of this report is to present for the consideration and requisite approval of council an application to amend comprehensive zoning bylaw number 1995-42 as amended in order to change the zoning category from seasonal residential to special district 240 in order to permit a walkout basement under the existing recreational dwelling, as well as a small addition to the rear of the cottage on a seasonal residential property known municipally as 39 Fire Route 75D in the Methuen Ward. My recommendation is that, subject to any new information or public comments received prior to or at this statutory public meeting, the draft bylaw be passed as presented. So as I mentioned, this application is to permit the increase of height of an existing cottage that's located 17.3 meters from the high water mark to allow for a walkout basement to go under the existing structure. That would be raising the cottage, building the walkout basement, and lowering the existing cottage back on. This application will bring the height of the structure from 1 story as it currently sits to a maximum of 7 meters. The increase in height and visual impact is not minor. Therefore, we needed to go through the zoning bylaw amendment process. This application does meet the intent of the provincial policy statement, the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe, the local and county official plan. Further, Crow Valley Conservation Authority has determined that there are no concerns with this application. It is my recommendation that this application be approved.
All right, thank you. So I'll ask the question, is there anybody wishing to speak against this application? Second time, anybody wishing to speak against this application? And third time, anybody wishing to speak against? Okay, is there anybody wishing to speak for this application? I see the applicants on the screen. Did you have anything to add to that?
No, other than, well, I'm going to say yes. We're keeping the exact same footprint with the cottage that we have today, with an addition of approximately 140 square feet, which is, I'm going to say 9 by 10. Yeah.
Okay.
9 by 14. There we go. And we're, as I say, it's the same footprint, other than that one little addition for a back maintenance room, and no encroachment onto the neighbor's property.
Okay, all right, thank you. Is there anybody else wishing to speak in favor of this application? And third time, anybody wishing to speak in favor? Hearing none, I'll open it up to council. Is there any questions or comments? Councillor Ellis?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. No, just I don't have any questions. It's pretty straightforward here, really. Got approval from the authorities. So I would make the motion that we approve the recommendation from our planning department.
All right, we have a mover. Councillor Ellis moves this recommendation. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Webb seconds the motion. Any other questions or?
What question on the motion?
Yeah, go ahead. Deputy
Question to
Mayor.
Laura. In a construction of this size, was there any contact with the health department and concerns with the septic tank?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, during the building permit process, the septic has to be updated or at least reviewed by Peterborough Public Health. So that will all get taken into consideration with the building permit.
My question. Thank you, Mayor.
Actually, we've spoken with Sawyer Giroux to actually put in a new septic tank further back, and that's all been approved by Peterborough Public Health.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And the
Councillor
permit was
Ellis?
forwarded
Okay.
to HBM.
All right, thank you. Councillor Ellis, you had a question with regards to the motion?
Yeah, just a comment to Laura. in the future, those kind of comments, can we have those added to your report so it makes it clear to everybody that's involved here?
Sure, not a problem.
Thank you.
Right. So motion is on the floor. I'll call the question. All in favor of the motion? And that's carried. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our next zoning bylaw amendment is Spears. And it is application, it's part of lot 10, concession 9, having a municipal address at 421 Fire Road 93, Methuen Ward. Cashbog Lake seems very busy today. So go ahead, Laura.
Thank you. So the purpose and effect of this report is to present for the consideration and requisite approval of council an application to amend comprehensive zoning bylaw number 1995-42 as amended in order to permit a redevelopment and expanded cottage dwelling on a property known municipally as 421 by Route 93 in the Methuen Ward. My recommendation is that, subject to any new information or public comments received prior to or at the statutory public meeting, the draft bylaw be passed as presented. This application is to address the increase in height and footprint of an existing structure that exceeded the permissions of the minor variance application that was approved in 2019. The approved cottage was given permission to be 26 feet in height with a specific footprint to match what had been existing prior to demolition. To accommodate a set of stairs, the footprint has expanded by 48 square feet and the height has increased by 3 feet. The application meets the intent of the provincial policy statement, growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe, the local and county official plan. As well, Crow Valley Conservation Authority has determined that there are no concerns with the application, and in fact, permits have already been granted by the Conservation Authority. It is my recommendation that this application be approved.
All right, thank you. I'll call a question here as far as, is there anybody wishing to speak against this application? Second time, anybody against? Third time, anybody against? Is there anybody wishing to speak in favor of this application? I see the agent here, Mr. McMahon.
Yes, I'm here.
Did you have anything to add there?
It's pretty straightforward. If there's any questions from the council, I'd be happy to answer them.
All right, then. Thank you. For the second time, is there anybody wishing to speak in favor of this application? And third time, anybody in favor? Hearing none. Yeah, council, what's your thoughts here as far as, once again, it's pretty straightforward, I think, but sounds like just some number changes here or something. So what's your thoughts here? Councillor Webb, go ahead.
Yeah, I just make a motion that we accept the recommendation of the planner.
All right, so I do have a mover. Is there a seconder for this? Councillor Ellis is seconding that. Any questions or comments to the motion? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Giroux.
Thank you, Mayor Martin. Laura, just for explanation, the reason that the minor variance was, how will I put this for everyone listening? There is no minor variance necessary now.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, the minor variance that was applied for in 2019 and since constructed added 2 additions to the existing cottage. During that time, it was determined that the foundation was not structurally sound enough to keep the existing cottage. So with permission from the municipality, the property owners and agent were told that they could demolish the existing cottage provided it was built in exactly the same footprint with the additions. And then it just ended up going a little taller and 48 square feet bigger.
I guess my question is, so the minor variance is good forever?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, no, they are good for a year, provided you get your building permits in, and that was done. So the expanded size of the cottage was given permission and it was acted on. So that is, it's set now.
Okay, so what we're saying then, in the future, if applicant applies for a minor variance and they go outside the minor variance and build it bigger, wider, or taller, and they'll come back and be passed. I have a hard time getting this in my head. If you apply for a minor variance that is so many square feet and you go beyond that. So did we change the district on this? Is that how this happened?
No, so through you, Mr. Mayor, what happened was the additions were granted and applied for in the size that they were approved by the committee. And then it was the existing cottage that had to be torn down and rebuilt because of the structural issues. We have since been requesting right from the get-go if it looks like the existing cottage has to be torn down because the additions are not, wouldn't be safe to add to it. We go right to a zone amendment without tearing down the existing and rebuilding the existing in the footprint. Just in case situations like this where you go a little bit taller or you go a little bit wider or deeper, anything like that. So I'm not sure what exactly was the agreement with the municipality to do the tear down and rebuild of the existing. But the agreement was that it would be exactly the same height, same width, same depth of the existing structure prior to the minor variance approval with the additions added. And that's what brought us here today.
I could answer some of that for you and help clear up the sequence of events, if that would be any help.
Thank you, Mr. McNamara. That'd be great.
Yeah, so just like we explained last year, in 2019, we went through the minor variance process to add the 2 wing additions to the existing cottage. We got to that and we started taking the thing apart, and we realized that the existing cottage, which was the original core, they didn't even put a footing down. For whatever reason, they just kind of poured a puddle of mortar right onto the topsoil, and roots and everything had all grown through the foundation once we got it uncovered.
I understand all that.
Yeah, so we had Luke out at the time, and he came out and looked at it with us and said, okay, what you can do is you can tear this down, but you've got to put it back on the original footprint, and you got to get me an engineer's report, and we've got to get Conservation Authority approval. So we went through all those steps, and then while we were redesigning the house for the new core, we realized that the old core was only 17 feet wide, and to get the stairs to work for the new addition, it just, since we were going from spending $400,000 to spending $1 million, we figured we should get it right. So what I did is I added a 4-foot by 8-foot little square to the great room itself. It didn't change the overall extension of the additions or anything like that. And that just allowed me room to slide a staircase up in that space. And I personally didn't think we were doing anything wrong. We were sitting right on the existing foundation, and we didn't go any closer to the lake or anything like that. So I thought, okay, I'm just moving laterally 4 feet on an interior wall. I didn't think that was a big deal. And Lucan came out and inspected the foundation, and he had the drawings in his hand and no alarms were raised. So I thought we were fine. And then come Christmas time, I don't know what triggered it, but somebody dug into it deeper, and I got a call from Lucan just before Christmas. It said, Greg, we just discovered that you made that great room bigger. And I said, well, yeah, but that's not a big deal. He goes, oh yeah, it is. So that put us in the position that we're in right now. And he said, well, the only way we can let you carry on is to rezone. So by the time we got to Christmas, the house is framed up, windows are in, and we're just about ready for framing inspections. So there really was no turning back. And
Thank you for that explanation.
okay.
I was just concerned with the height, and with the rezoning took care of that. And that was my question. So
Yeah, like the height
it's
itself.
a
is
long
just
way around it, but I had to understand that we weren't going to get into a precedent down the road.
Yeah,
So
like I
thank
said, we it was an innocent error, quite frankly. There was no, intent to, and and the height is just because instead of spanning 12 feet or 17 feet on a 12-12, we're now spanning 22. So mean, that's the only difference in the height.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, if there's no more questions, we do have a mover and a seconder for this application. All in favor of the motion? And that's carried. Thank you, Mr. McElmall, and that's approved. So our next zoning bylaw amendment is Abala Button Holdings, care of Ophira Sutton, sorry if I messed that up. Part of lot 1415, concession 6, having a municipal address of 527 Fire Road 82, Methuen Ward. Laura, go ahead with this one.
Thank you. So the purpose and effect of this is to present for the consideration and requisite approval of council an application to amend comprehensive zoning bylaw number 1995-42 in order to change the zone category from seasonal residential to special district 241 in order to permit the redevelopment of an existing bunkhouse and a demolished in-water boathouse on a seasonal residential property. Subject to any new information or public comments received prior to or at the statutory public meeting, my recommendation is that the draft bylaw be passed as presented. This application is to rebuild an in-water boathouse and to put additions onto an existing bunkhouse located 6.8 meters from the high water mark. The proposed boathouse is to expand on the size, as the current footprint only permits a boat around the size of a car top tin boat. The proposal is to permit a larger, more modern boat, but also to have a walkway on the interior of the building for safe access to the boat. The height of the boathouse will not exceed 3.4 meters, nor will the footprint exceed 38.5 square meters. I want to be super clear about this, that the boathouse will not have any floor space in it to accommodate habitable space, nor will it have a flat roof. So there won't be a party deck up on top of the boathouse. The intent of this boathouse is for the storage of a boat and marine related items, such as paddles, life jackets, etc. It will not be permitted to be a bunkhouse or a sleeping quarters. The bunkhouse is proposed to have an additional space added to it in the form of additions to create rooms. So currently it's just one room with some bunk beds in it. The increase in size will be an additional 228 square feet for a total of 448 square feet. Washroom facilities and kitchen facilities are both not permitted within the sleeping cabin. This application has been back and forth with Crow Valley Conservation Authority. And just this morning, I received an email from Robert Cole, copied to Beth Lowe, who reviewed the plan, where they noted that the bunkhouse is, provided the bunkhouse is outside of the floodplain, which will be determined with an elevation survey, that there is no concern. The Crow Valley Conservation Authority has also been working with the agent to the property owners to determine the lowest impact foundation for the boathouse. So the property owner, this application has received a letter of opposition from Mr. Ambrose Moran and a letter of interest from Lorna Day, who's a neighbor. This application does meet the intent of the provincial policy statement, growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe, local and county official plans, and it's my recommendation that it be approved.
All right, thank you, Laura. And this is one of those applications, we try to look at every application like it's a new build. This application is to fix up something old. But there is some issues here as far as it's one thing to fix them up. Lots of times if it's on an existing footprint, it's pretty straightforward. Where these here are trying to do an addition on 2 old buildings. And one of them probably in our new bylaw wouldn't be allowed because it has the sleeping cabin has to be behind the cottage, as far as I understand. Which this one here, it's a little bit of a strange lot because it's got a lot of water frontage around it, but I'm not sure if that sleeping cabin is in the right spot. So I'll call a question here if there's anybody in opposition of this application. Second time, is there anybody wishing to speak in opposition of this application? And third time, anybody wishing to speak in opposition? Is there anybody wishing to speak in favor of this application? I'm not sure if the applicant's here.
I'm the contractor and an agent for the applicant.
Okay.
So my name is Jeremy Wilson.
Okay, did you have anything to add to Laura's report?
No, just, we are, like she said, the current boathouse is falling in, and it's a hazard right now. It's also on a crib style footing. We're looking at, as she said, going larger to accommodate an actual modern sized boat and reduce the impact on the lake. As far as we're working with R&J Machine right now to get some engineering done up for the steel pylons, rather than a crib dock or rather than a poured foundation into the water, just to minimize impact on the lake that way. We're going to, by building a new boathouse visually with the lake, it's going to look a lot better than obviously an old fallen down boathouse that's there right now. With the bunkie, you were commenting on it being ahead of the existing cottage. We're not looking to expand anymore that way. It's towards the cottage. So that's about where we're sitting right now with that.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
All right, I'll ask one more time. Is there anybody wishing to speak in favor of this application? All right, hearing none, I'll open it up to council. Barry, you had your hand up?
Yes, I think some of our bylaws cover most of this. The boathouse, for instance, we'll start with it. We're going larger than the footprint, which I think we have a bylaw that covers that we can't do that. And the same topic that you were mentioned, Jim, the cabin, the addition on it, and I think our new bylaws are it's supposed to be behind the cottage. So I don't like it when you're going to demolish a boathouse and then add to it, because we have the bylaw there for a reason. We went through all this stuff with Jack's Lake, and we've come to an amicable solution. And here we are, where we have something brought to us, to me, that isn't right. It isn't proper, and that's that refers back to the bylaw that we had we changed last time. We made a bylaw which was zone. Just a minute here. With Teresa Greenwood and Pete Summers there, it's somewhat the same. As far as I'm concerned, we've missed a lot on that, and I don't want to proceed with this one here neither, because I feel that we're stepping out of our bounds by passing something like this. And the Greenwood and the Peter Summers one before this.
We'll just stick to this one, Barry, right now, and then.
And but I want to speak to the other one at some point.
Yep.
And I think maybe my own feeling is we should turn this down.
Okay.
Because it does not conform to our bylaws.
Okay, is there any other comments or questions? Laura, go ahead, and then Hart.
Sure. So through you, Mr. Mayor, I just want to speak to that. So the boathouse today, you're right, would not be permitted. However, there is an existing footprint. So as of right, the property owner would be able to apply for a permit to tear it down and rebuild in the exact same footprint, which would not hit council's radar. It would just be a building permit application. So this is to make it a little bit bigger so that it's safer for access, which is why I lent my support to it. And it's the same with the bunkhouse. The footprint is existing. This is a very old lot. So the buildings probably were built in the 50s, maybe 60s, when we didn't have the rules about where the bunkhouse would be located. Putting an addition on the bunkhouse right now, it's just one room. This is to add actual bedrooms, so that it's not people on top of each other in bunk beds. So that's the intent there. Like I said, there's not going to be a kitchen facility. This isn't intended to be rented out or anything like that. There will be no washroom facilities. It's just for sleeping.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Giroux and then Councillor Pomeroy.
Thank you, Mayor Martin. Thank you, Laura, for your presentation, understanding that there's not going to be any floor in it, no washrooms and no bunkies. But our present bylaw prohibits on-water boathouses and do not permit enlargement of existing boathouses. So I don't see how, in good faith, or I couldn't support this motion, not when it comes to the boathouse. The bunkie, if there's an elevation shot that says that it can be there as far as the elevation goes, well, then I would probably support it. But I can't support the bunkie on the grounds that we can't make it larger. Crow Valley Conservation Area might say that the shoreline is great to enlarge it, and that's all. But they're not a part of our bylaw, so I can't support it.
Okay, and sorry, I skipped over Councillor Webb. Councillor Webb and then Councillor Pomeroy, sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna say what Deputy Mayor said. We have two bylaws. We, as a council, we spent a lot of time setting up those bylaws and passing those bylaws. We heard from a lot of people. I think it was quite clear in terms of people saying that, well, a lot of them didn't want boathouses, but if they did, they definitely don't want them expanded into bigger. I understand what you're saying, Laura. I'm sorry for the applicant that they can only put a small boat in there. Perhaps they should look for a different property, but because we can't go changing things every time somebody wants to go a little bit bigger. Otherwise, we open this door and it'll just, the floodgates will open. So I'm against it as well.
So I don't know if the application is denied or if it's deferred to the next, like to work with what's there. But as far as what's there right now, I'm hearing that we can't support it. I'll go with Councillor Pomeroy and then we'll open the question. Go ahead, Barry.
Yeah, I cannot support it on the boathouse issue, and I think, in all honesty, you know, we used to have a committee that went out and looked at all these properties. Mayor Martin, you were on that one term with me, and we could look at it to see what it is, but the boathouse issue is cut and dry. And I don't know why, Laura, you would say they wanted to make it a little bit bigger. Well, we all like to make things bigger, but we've worked hard to get this bylaw. So as it stands, we're not changing it because there's been so much put into this bylaw that we got to uphold it. And I would make a motion that we deny this application.
Okay, there was something from Jeremy Wilson to be added to this. Do you have something to add to this discussion, Jeremy?
Yeah, I just want to say, so it sounds like you guys are against the boathouse. Can we make a motion, if you're going to be against the boathouse, to look at the bunkie expansion, to approve it and not the boathouse? Is that a possibility today? Yeah.
I think the best way would be to defer this for more discussion on it, because it's more than just the boathouse. I think there needs to be some more discussion around the cabin too. So I think the easiest and cleanest way would be to defer this, but we do have a motion on the floor to deny this application. So I'll have to follow through with that one first to see if there's a seconder for that, unless the person making the motion wants to change it. But is there a seconder for the motion to deny this application? Councillor Webb? Okay, I'll call the question here unless there's any more. Is there any more comments here? The motion is to deny this application. All in favor of the motion? Okay, carried. Yes, Jeremy, it is denied. There's too many things in this application that go against what we've been trying to work towards.
Okay.
Okay.
So thank you
All
for your
right.
time.
Okay, thank you. That's the end of the listed zoning bylaw amendments. Councillor Pomeroy, you had something, I don't know whether that comes up here with regards to a zoning bylaw amendment from the last meeting. This is new to us to deal with it. We've never had this before, so there's something about the last meeting. I wasn't a part of it, but it sounds like something kind of wasn't to your liking.
Well, I'm not really. I would let, it was currently zoned seasonal residential. They want to change to permanent dwelling. Well, a permanent dwelling has to be located on a public maintained road. So the principle, and then there was a garage in there, 133% over the principal dwelling, and it's called a minor adjustment. Well, to me, it's not a minor. And I would like for us to go back and have a look at this again. So I would like to make a motion of the consideration of decision on this topic, because there's a few questions that aren't answered. Where do we go from a cottage road and make it a publicly maintained road to suit one person? And who's going to pay for all these costs? Like, there's a lot of costs involved here, and I never seen anything anywhere where costs were presented to council. And it kind of bothered me. Like, it was brought up at last council meeting. We don't usually do that on that meeting, but anyway, we went ahead. I guess the person that must be in quite an anxious state to get it done, but I'm in a kind of an anxious state to see that it's done properly and maybe get some more information and have it explained to us.
Okay, I'm going to ask Bob, CAO Angioni, to I'm not familiar with how we do this, and I think this is kind of something that we haven't done before, but if you could explain our options here, Bob.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin. At the previous council meeting held 2 weeks ago, a zoning bylaw amendment in the name of Greenwood and Summers was approved at that meeting. So if it is council's will to reconsider that decision, a motion for reconsideration would need to be passed today. And then that zoning bylaw amendment would be reconsidered at the planning meeting in May. So we would need to advertise it as per the Planning Act, and it would be reconsidered at the second meeting in May. That is the process.
Okay, I'm going to ask Councillor Ellis. I wasn't at the meeting, and from what I've seen in the application, I was in full support of it. There was some different wording in there that I wasn't used to seeing, and that's, I think, what Councillor Pomeroy is talking about. As far as the application itself, to hold it back, I don't know if there's a reason for that, but there's some wording there that a lot of seasonal people are having the question of in these days, as far as they're living here now, and we have some things in the old rules as far as seasonal residential, and there has been some questions around that. So I think this one here might have been something trying to think proactively, but it's not wording that we're used to. So like I say, I don't know whether it's worth holding the application back, but there is some wording there that's kind of makes you question things. So Councillor Ellis, go ahead.
Through you, like you say, rather than hold things up for maybe unknown reasons that are not satisfied in the report, or statements not satisfying in the report. We have our planner here. Can we not discuss what's not clear, or if we're not in agreement, discuss it at this point rather than put it off? So I would make that a suggestion that we ask Laura to clarify any unsure questions or comments that are in the previous report.
Okay, Laura, could you help us with that there? And then I'll go to Deputy Mayor Giroux.
Yep, for sure.
So,
Sorry, so what exactly is it that's unclear?
I think the wording that was in there was as far as not permanent residence. I don't have it with me here, but as far as it's a seasonal residential place, and I don't think it's I think the application was fine. It's just the wording as far as permanent residence or
yeah, year-round permanent dwelling. So lots of people are currently living at their cottages, and they have for years. And we have not, as a municipality, made it our business to go out and search people out to reprimand them for living at their cottages. But if it does come up to me during the application process for another planning event, this is an opportunity to tidy it up and make it legal. So this was discussed with our fire chief, and he said that provided the property owners are in an agreement with the municipality that they will not have any services, he doesn't have an issue with it. They just need to be aware that that is something that comes with living year round on a fire route. There's no need to have the fire route brought up to municipal standards or maintained by the municipality, especially at this time for one person who is trying to legally live at their cottage. We have like I said, we have lots of residents who do that already, and it's just not legal according to our comprehensive zoning bylaw.
So yeah, okay. I'll go to staff first, Dave, and then I'll go to you. Go ahead, Bob.
Through you, Mayor Martin, if council wishes, I can certainly read some details of the application. I do have it in front of me if you wish.
That might be helpful. I know it was a mix-up too at the beginning of the meeting. I know I couldn't get on again at that one, and then I think Councillor Webb everybody was freezing up. It was a little bit messy. So if you could read that, Bob, and then Dave, I'll go to your question.
I just want to say Deputy Mayor Giroux did a great job in your absence there.
Yeah. He almost had to do it today.
He was ready though. I gave him a heads up.
Yeah.
So the application reads, the Township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen is in receipt of an application to amend the comprehensive zoning bylaw in order to permit permanent dwelling on a seasonal residential property, as well as a 2-story detached garage with a ground floor area of 1,675 square feet and a gross floor area of 3,607 square feet. Okay, the application proposes to redevelop the property to accommodate a permanent single detached dwelling, as well as a 2-story detached garage. The existing structure is proposed to have the use converted from recreational to permanent dwelling. The existing dwelling is not proposed to change dimensions. The redevelopment of the property will include the conversion of use from recreational dwelling to a permanent dwelling. The dwelling and deck will be located within the 30-meter shoreline setback water yard and would be set back 21.9 meters from the high water mark. And additionally, a detached 2-story garage is proposed to be built with a maximum height of 21.5 feet to midspan. That's basically the details. I didn't read it exactly word for word, but that's most of it.
And I think it's the permanent dwelling part of it. And I appreciate what Laura's trying to do there, because the questions have been coming in the last year. I've had several calls with regards to living at the cottage, and it's something that's been happening for years, and looking at an opportunity to maybe clean it up. But I'm just concerned with, we probably should have had some discussion around that. Deputy Mayor Giroux, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Martin. I'll direct my questions to Laura. Perhaps I misunderstood you, Laura. I do believe I got the number of kilometers off a main road clear, and that concerned me because of the situation we're in. My understanding was that the property owners, that we had some kind of a document that in writing that said they understood this, something that we could fall back on. If that's not the case, then it's time council has created a new bylaw in regards to all fire roads that will cover us, because that was my impression. If that was wrong, well, then that's on me. But because you said you talked to the fire chief and so on, then maybe I shouldn't assumed, but I thought we had a legal document.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, the document usually comes into place at building permit time. So during the change of use for the building permit, they would have to enter into a legal agreement registered on title, so that if they sell the cottage, the agreement stays with the property, not the property owner, that they understand that there will be no municipal services, the road will not be maintained, there will be no school buses or garbage pickup or that type of thing.
Okay, thank you.
So that might be an easier way of dealing with this, is to make a separate motion that we make sure that that's taken care of before the building permit's issued, without holding the rest of this up. I don't know what Councillor Pomeroy's thoughts are there, but that would be a simpler way. Go ahead, Barry.
Yeah, and the other thing that kind of bothers me too is the garage. You know, it's 2,240 square feet alone. I don't know why you need a garage that large unless you're going to start a bed and breakfast or something. I don't know, but it's 133%, you know, and of the property, you know, and so there's just little things that we, you know, were not explained. I'm sorry, Laura, but they weren't, you know, and you've kind of straightened up some of them today, but I can't see proceeding until we get those straightened up. Like, you would give us more information than what was in your presentation before. And I think we deserve, you know, as a council making these decisions, to have all the information that we can to make it easier for us too, because, you know, that's your forte. And, you know, we have to go basically on what you tell us, but if you're not telling us, we can't make an informed decision.
So I think the size of the garage, that's why a minor variance wouldn't have worked for something like this, because it's not minor. And that's why it's a rezoning thing here. So I think the rezoning takes care of all those things. I just think it's you know, there was some things missing here that we didn't totally understand, and there's some new things in here. But it sounds like, Bob, what's the process here as far as if we get a motion on the floor, Councillor Pomeroy wants to go back and relook at this, or the other option is, if we don't get enough support for that, we could make a separate motion to make sure a lot of this is taken care of in the building permit stage. Would that work?
Through you, Mayor Martin, if council chooses to reconsider the matter, we would need a motion today to that effect, that council would like to reconsider the matter, at which point this would be advertised and it would be addressed at the next public planning meeting, which would be the second council meeting in May.
Okay. All right. So Barry, if you want to make a motion and see where it goes.
Well, I would like to make a motion, and I would like to have some of the information that Laura has given us today added into it. So I would like to make a motion, you know, consideration of the decision that we made at the last meeting. I'm not blaming anyone, only we as far as I'm concerned, we didn't get the information, and it would make it much easier, like I say, for council to have the proper information and deal with it.
Okay, so there's the motion. Is there a seconder for that motion? Deputy Mayor Dro, are you seconding it?
I'll second that motion to get clarification.
Okay. All right, so we have the first and seconder. All in favor of the motion? Okay, it's carried. So Laura, I guess we'll have to do whatever you can do to go through that again. So, all right, we'll get the more information and we'll have to repost it and notify everybody involved that we changed their mind. So, okay, Councillor Ellis, go ahead.
Yes, so I'm here. I know we've deferred it now, but if Laura comes back to our next council meeting with clarity and changes that we've requested, is that sufficient? I'm gonna probably ask CAO Bob.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin. So the process now is that council has voted to reconsider the matter. So essentially, you're starting as a fresh application at the next meeting. So council can choose to approve or deny the application.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right then. So, all right, we'll move on to, can I get a motion to go out of the public meeting? And we'll move by Councillor Webb and seconded by Councillor Pomeroy. All in favor? And that's carried. All right, we'll do our next item and then we'll maybe take a 5-minute break. And our next item is delegations and presentations. And we have one listed so far, and that's Lorraine Fulton with regards to request for a cat bylaw. Is Lorraine on here?
I am here, only I'm under Megan King.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how to change it. It's my daughter.
Yep, okay. All right then, Lorraine, we did receive your letter here with regards to a cat bylaw and what you're dealing with over there. We don't need to really read the thing, but basically there's a lot of cats living next door to you, and it sounds like it's something that needs to be taken care of somewhere else, is your feelings?
Most definitely. The backyard is total cat cages. We've continuously chasing cats out of our backyard. The smell that we've had to deal with because of the disposal of cat feces that is not done properly. And I'm just questioning why some type of a setup like this is in town. Like, there's no bylaws to regulate it. There's nothing to set it up, to have it looked after, to have it controlled. And we've been dealing with it for quite a few years now. I've been asking for something, for some type of help.
Okay. Yeah, and I heard there's other areas in town with the same problem. And so I think it is something that needs to be looked at as far as Norwood has a cat bylaw over there. And I think that could be some of our problem with what's next door to you. They don't allow them there, so they're here. So I just, we've talked about this a lot during budget, and, you know, actually even seen some things in the news with regards to the Humane Society in Peterborough expanding. And I don't know whether this is something they would do, but there is something we need to do, that we could do to get the cats under control in town. So I'll open it up to council if they have any questions for Lorraine or comments. Councillor Pomeroy and then Deputy Mayor Giroux.
Yes, Lorraine, I feel sorry for you. And I didn't realize that you had quite as bad a problem as you have. And I think, you know, it's a doable thing to make a cat bylaw, because we have a dog bylaw that allows 3 dogs. If we had a bylaw that allowed 3 cats, I don't see that it's such a big deal. We could add into that the feces have to be, you know, have to be cleaned up and not stored on property. That would alleviate the problem, and it would be very probably inexpensive way of doing it. I know that Mayor Martin said that Norwood has a bylaw. I don't know what it is, but I'm more than willing to look at different bylaws, but I think we could have one made for HBM in HBM and not at a great cost, and it would alleviate your problem.
And I think it has to be controlled as well. And I don't
Yeah.
know if the bylaw officer would be the one to do it, or you'd have to, like you have with your dog, summon separate. But I mean, some of these cages are 6 feet up in the air. And like I said, the whole backyard is cat cages.
Well, it's,
You really have to come and see.
I don't know whether you'd have to have a kennel license for that or not, but you know, this is something we're gonna have to get on. We're gonna have to get on right away because it's gonna be hot weather again in another couple of weeks, and you shouldn't have to suffer again another summer.
Yeah, we literally had to go into the house quite a few times because the smell was so bad.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Giroux, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Martin. I think the more months go on, the more we learn and learn. I'm prepared to make a motion to direct staff to bring back a bylaw that we could view. In saying that, yes, the Peterborough is going to expand their clinic up there for pets. So with the bylaw, I'm suggesting that staff also look at any building that is going to house cats in order to keep them. There should be some regulations on those also. So I guess staff, what I'm saying, is going to have to look at the whole thing. And George Street's not the only place. They're all over the place. So it's too bad that there's that many in that area, but let's move forward and get it straightened out.
And when you say move forward, how long are you talking? Like, am I going to have to go through this for another few months, or is it going to be, I know things don't get done quickly.
Well, I'd refer that question to the CAO because I don't know how fast the staff can create a bylaws.
Okay, Bob, if you could help us out there. There's two parts to this, and the first part is the bylaw, and I think that's the you know, there's a process and you're not reinventing anything here. That's the easy part. The other part of it is the cat rescue side of it. But if we could get the bylaw in place, that should cover us for any future problems, like Councillor Pomeroy said, with numbers and things like that. So Bob, if you could go ahead and ask and answer how we could get this moving forward.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin, we can certainly, staff will bring a bylaw forward to our next council meeting. We can do that. I do caution council, the bylaw, when enacted, works on a go forward basis. So any current cat sanctuaries that exist are grandfathered in. We cannot bylaw them out of existence. We will have to deal with that in a different way.
Well, that, like, if we can get the bylaw in place, hopefully we can deal with the other side of it, because as soon as possible, like, the hot weather is coming. So like I say, if we can get the bylaw going, and then we'll continue to work on the other side of it there as soon as possible. Councillor Ellis, you had a question? And then Councillor Webb.
Not a question, just a comment through you, Mr. Mayor. The situation at 11 George Street is kind of unique there. And as much as I'm not disregarding what Lorraine has brought forward, and we've listened to it from different ones in the past. So it's a legitimate concern, and the remarks are right on. Unfortunately, the lady that's at 11 George Street is also kind of doing a good thing. It's just in the wrong location. She's trying to control the feral cats, from what I understand. But unfortunately, it's just in the wrong location and creates the issues that Lorraine speaks to. And I understand there's probably more of them in town. So a cat law bylaw is going to start to help control. But unfortunately, at 11 George Street, as much as she's trying to do something good, it's not good if you're living beside it.
No. I don't feel that the responsibility is there, and like, you have to live here to understand what we have gone through, and property value, our property values, what's going to happen to that if this continues on. I am concerned, Bob, when you said about the a bylaw is good, but I do not want them grandfathered in, because that doesn't defeat it, but it certainly is not going to solve the problem, because I have no idea how many cats there are. I've seen 5 different ones in these cages. So that's a start. Plus what we chase out of our backyard.
Okay, thank you, Lorraine. And yeah, the bylaw is the part to get it started. I think that's the main thing, get it going. And the other part of it, as far as the grandfathered, it'll give us an opportunity to try and take care of the other part of it too. There's 2 parts to it, but we're looking at the one that we have that's kind of an easy thing. We can get a bylaw in place and take care of this from happening in the future, but hopefully through other resources, we can take care of what's next door to you. Councillor Webb, you had a question there?
Yeah, it was just kind of what you just said there, Jim, in terms of it's easy for us to pass a bylaw, but the real work is going to be, Lorraine kind of alluded to it, is who's going to go around and, you know, get these cats off the street, the ones that aren't supposed to be there. Is it going to be our bylaw guy? Are we going to partner maybe with the Peterborough Humane Society? I think that's the main thing we need to look at, because, you know, it's easy. We could pass the bylaw today if we wanted to, but the real work is getting the cats off the street, the town cleaned up. So I think that's what staff needs to look at.
I think the start of the bylaw, when you look at the Norwood, I'm just using the Norwood one that I'm familiar with, is the it's like Barry said, 3 cats you're allowed, same as the dog bylaw. So at least we can get some numbers in order here. You know, it's and then we'll have to work on the other part, and the enforcement side of it will all have to be taken care of as part of the bylaw. Barry, go ahead.
Yeah, the other concerns I have, that I have is the feces next door and the smell. Is it classed as a kennel? You know, it's a terrible thing to have something like that next door to you that you can't enjoy your own property. So can we maybe dove into something somewhere that somebody must have, you know, in their plans, that you can't store this stuff on your property. And further, you know, like if you're going to feed feral cats, you're going to have them keep coming. So it's you know, you say we can't do anything about it. Well, maybe we can't, but it's we got to stop it. Like, there's, the more you harbor something that's wants food, more of them that are going to be there. I know I've dealt with the problem myself. So
we've also had litters. Sorry to interrupt. We've also had litters of kittens under our house, under our pool shed, and under our vehicles. We're like I said, continuously chasing them out. Had the OPP at the door. I explained that all to you before. Like, this is just, it's gone on too long.
Okay, so Bob, can you help me here as far as, did Deputy Mayor Dro make a motion that we look at cat, or did somebody make a motion there? And
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin, Deputy Mayor Giroux did move a motion that we bring forward a cat bylaw.
all right, and was there a seconder to that?
No, we need a seconder for that motion.
Seconded by Councillor Pomeroy. All in favor of the motion? And that's carried. Dave, you had something?
Thank you, Mayor Martin. Just one quick comment. Several years ago, we had a situation in HBM similar to this. The health department looked after the whole thing. So I don't know whether we've talked to the health department yet or not, but down the road, if we haven't, that's one option.
I had thought of contacting the health department myself. Of course, with COVID, they got their hands full. But I don't know if you guys remember, but you had Sean from Peterborough Humane Society in the fall. And I was very impressed with him, with his understanding of this situation and was willing to work with you. So maybe he can be some help to get something done.
Thank you.
So Bob, should we get a separate motion to authorize staff to research this cat rescue part of the problem and try and come up with a solution for a future meeting for that part of it, or do you want to tie it in with the bylaw?
No, that's fine. Through you, Mayor Martin, we'll take a separate motion and we'll treat them differently.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Webb, did you want to make that motion? Okay, and Councillor Pomeroy, did you want to second that? No?
I think we've already made that motion, and I think we have the information there from the,
Budget?
no, from Peterborough. I think they gave us a price and everything else. Did we not, Bob? Did we not have that information?
Through you, Mayor Martin, as referenced by our delegation, there was a presentation during budget deliberations from the Peterborough Humane Society regarding cat control.
So that's kind of the third part, Barry. But I mean, if we could look at this, the cat rescue side of it, and the other, we do have some of the information, but we don't have all of it. So if the motion was to look into the cat rescue part of it.
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. So we have a seconder for that. Any other questions or comments?
Thank you very much.
All in favor of the motion? And that's carried. Okay, so we can look at that part there, and we, like you said, Barry, we do have half of the information, but we just need to find out about the other side there. So, all right, Lorraine. So we'll do what we can.
We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you for your patience. Is there any other people wishing to speak as a delegation? I don't have any listed here, but I see lots of names on the sheet here. So,
yeah, through you, Mayor Martin, there's no one else wishing to address council.
All right, so I was going to suggest that we take 5 minutes here just to catch up, and we'll come back in 5 minutes if that's okay. Take a 5-minute recess. Moved by Deputy Mayor Giroux, seconded by Councillor Pomeroy. All in favor? And that's carried. So we'll come back here at about 13 minutes after. Look for a motion to resume the meeting.
So moved.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Giroux, seconder Councillor Pomeroy. All in favor? And that's carried. All right, our next item on the agenda is staff reports for information. I'll go through, is there anything that you wish to talk to on that? It is for information only. You've had time to read it. Deputy Mayor Giroux.
Go ahead.
Okay, the only thing I seen on there, and John might be able to comment to it, is his report with regards to construction activity during the stay-at-home order. That was from April 7th, and now April 16th, I think some new rules came in with construction. Is there any changes that you're expecting, John?
Thank you, Mayor Martin. There's very little change at this time. It's just non-essential construction is not to be taking place. But in reviewing the new order, almost everything we're doing right now at the ethanol plant and the mines and affordable housing is all allowed to continue.
Okay, I know the last year when they did it, it was more specific to if the foundation was already started, you could carry on. Now, I do know several contractors yesterday that didn't work because they weren't sure if they were allowed to. But hopefully it's clarified today. I know even my own business, I had to reach out to find out if I was allowed to. So anyways, okay. So Larry and then Dave.
That's for you, Mr. Mayor. John, could you give an example of what you consider non-essential construction?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So if somebody was building a dock would be an example, or possibly a garage would be a possibility. We are still issuing permits and we are still inspecting. That hasn't been mandated to us to shut those projects down. That would have to be done by another law enforcement agency. So for our part, we're still accepting permits, reviewing permits, issuing permits, and continuing with inspections with proper personal protective equipment.
Thank you, John.
Okay, Dave, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Ellis asked the majority of my question. I have one more for John. Can you give me a guesstimate of this $390,000 so far in 2021 that would be on private roads?
That wouldn't be on private roads?
That would be.
The majority of our permits so far this year are the expansion at the Kawartha Ethanol is a large part of it, which is on Highway 7. We would still be regularly, we would probably do 70% to 80% of permits issued in a year would be on private roads.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Barry, go ahead.
Yes, thanks, John, for such a report. It's great to see that we're up this year so much over last year. I know it's due to some big projects, but keep them going because it's making us a buck, and I can see where you're very, very busy with inspections too, and I hope your new man's working out all right. I met him personally, and he seems like a good chap. So keep up the good work.
Thank you.
All right then. So if there's no more questions with regards to the 3 items on the staff reports for information, I'll look for a motion to receive them. Moved by Councillor Webb, seconder, Deputy Mayor Giroux. All in favor?
Thank you.
And that's carried. Thank you. Our next items on the agenda is staff reports for follow-up action. And the first item here is from Laura with Economic Development and Economic Planner, Economic Development Officer. Request to purchase shoreline road allowance. Welcome back, Laura.
Thank you. So this request is for 2482 water access only on Cashbog Lake. It's to purchase the 66-foot shoreline road allowance that's owned by the Crown. There is no impact for navigational purposes, or this does not impede the neighbor's access to the lake either. This is a pretty straightforward one. It's my recommendation that council direct staff to advise the property owner and the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry that the township has no concerns with or objections to the proposed acquisition of the adjacent 66-foot shoreline Crown Reserve by Michelle Nadler.
All right, thank you. What's council's thoughts there as far as somebody want to make a motion? Councillor Webb, go ahead.
Motion to approve the recommendation of the planner.
All right, do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Ellis. Questions, comments? All in favor? And that's carried. Our next is emergency COVID business funding for businesses and service clubs. Now you're putting your other hat on, Laura.
Yes, so thank you. This is to seek approval to dedicate $15,000 of the municipality's COVID-19 funds to go towards an emergency relief fund for Havelock-Belmont-Methuen businesses and service clubs. It's my recommendation that council authorizes the treasurer to set aside that $15,000 of municipal COVID funding for emergency relief fund for our businesses and service clubs. We discussed this on April 15th at the Economic Development Committee. So that was in the morning, and we figured that the easiest way to do this was to have a simple application form. The businesses would need to provide an HST number. Service clubs would not necessarily have one of those, so they would need to provide the nature of their business, note what the funds would be used for, as well as provide information to the municipality, like your phone number, email address, physical address, that type of thing. If the pickup is pretty strong on this, so we decided that $500 would be likely the most impactful amount of money to give to a business or a service club. And if we have a lot of pickup on this, we will be reviewing the applications as the Economic Development Committee and ranking them. So if a business has already received federal funding or provincial funding, maybe they would get put below a business that hasn't been eligible for that. The intention is also to provide a package with the application form that gives links to all of the eligible funds and grants and loans available for businesses and service clubs because of COVID-19.
Thank you. And Hart, you're chair of that committee. Did you have anything to add?
No, Laura pretty much covered it all. I'd like to thank her she's put in a lot of work on this in the last 2 to 3 weeks to bring this to fruition. We were trying to get this out. Obviously, people are hurting, so we're trying to get this money out to the businesses in our community as quick as possible. And no, I just like to thank her for what she's done with this. And hopefully, like as I said, this money, we realize it's not a huge sum, but it's something, and we'd like to recognize the businesses in this community and let them know they're part of this community, a vital part of this community, and like to see them continue. And we as a council and HPM are here to help them in these times of need. So, you know, we get a lot of council doesn't help us and council does. Well, this is something, you know, gives a chance for council to reach out and help some of these people in a time of need. So thank you, Laura.
All right, thank you. Councillor Ellis, go ahead.
I'm just quickly rereading here. How are you contacting the businesses, Laura?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, we've worked with Peterborough Kawartha Economic Development. They have a business count of 50 businesses, 43, I believe, of which authorized to give their information to the municipality. So we'll be contacting them that way. I also would recommend putting it out on social media. Just that is usually the quickest. Word of mouth will travel pretty fast if we can get it out on our website.
So that's good. Yeah, and thank you for all the work, Laura. This is just a small way to help the businesses. So I will look for a motion to support this. Deputy Mayor Giroux.
I would like to move that motion with a comment. I'm looking forward to the end result here and report back.
All right. So moved by Deputy Mayor Giroux, and Hart, you broke up there. I don't know.
No, I was just thanking the deputy for his kind words.
Yeah, okay. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Somebody want to second it? Councillor Pomeroy? Any more questions or comments? Call the question. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, our next report here is from Ryan Andrew, Manager of Parks and Recs and Facilities. Request for proposal for splash pad. Welcome, Ryan.
Good morning.
All right. This is something that came out of the Recreation Master Plan. Did you want to speak to it?
Yes. Good morning. Yeah, this is a brief staff report, just kind of outlining the need to develop need to develop an RFP so that we can get some more information back on the design and build of a splash pad. In this report, it is recommended that the site that we should be looking at for the design build naturally would be 39 George Street, just given the location of it and the location of services, and as of right now, it's kind of considered the hub of the community for recreation and things like that. So that was just something to note in there. Really, at this time, I just wanted to kind of give you some of the information, like where it came from, like when council approved the budget and when they approved the master plan and then when that came out. So this was a direct outcome from the Parks and Recreation master plan. So it came up really high on the list. So I am assuming that's a priority of council at this time. So yeah, so basically today I'm just looking for approval so that staff can develop the tender document or the RFP documents with all the scope of work and what would be involved in doing that, and we could get a better idea on costs and what it might look like. So we'll probably have quite a bit of interest in this. So it'll be exciting once the proposals come back and we'll be able to actually see some conceptual drawings and things like that. The tender is written in a way that as they come back, there'll be all itemized lists. So we can really take advantage of that in a way that we can start to attract in-kind services from local people to bring down the cost of the projects. As I know through conversations and the people in this community, and they want to help out with this. So that's kind of exciting that we can do it that way. And what they propose, the company proposes, doesn't necessarily mean that they have to do all the work. We can look after some of it ourselves and make that make that dollar amount go a lot further. So
All
is there
right.
any questions?
Yeah, Councillor Pomeroy and then Councillor Webb.
Yeah, is this money coming from our master plan or our grant through the master plan? Or because I don't remember it being passed in our budget for a splash pad. It probably should have been, but I don't recall a splash pad being on the budget. So I wondered if it was covered through the grant for.
No, it'll probably be end up that we got to get some numbers with it. We couldn't put it in a budget without the numbers. So I think this is the first part to get it ready for possibly a budget or to see what we're going to be looking at.
Yep.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Palmer's question, yeah, this is an approved item. This was not approved through budget time, but I know there was some interest from council and a lot of discussion about getting something started. The staff report that I'm asking you to approve today has no financial impact. It doesn't cost anything to put this out there. What it does is it positions council to make a decision on what level of splash pad they're looking to do. And I mean, you can do something that's like 150,000 to 300,000. So I mean, it gives something back for council to look at and something for the community to get excited about. So I'm really hoping that this goes through today and we can get that out and share that results with the community.
Thank you, Councillor Webb, and then Deputy Mayor Giroux, and then I'll come back to you, Councillor Palmer. Councillor Webb.
Yeah, well, I'll make a motion to approve. Wait for see if anybody wants to second it. Brian, do you have any idea on the time frame for when we could have this RFP out? Like, can we have it out by the next meeting?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Webb. If council approves this today, the tender RFP document is mostly been completed, so we could get it out as early as next week. Typically, they run for 2 to 3 weeks, and then there'll be about a week closing time. So if council decides to approve this today, within a month, I'm expecting that we could, be sitting down, evaluating and reviewing these proposals.
Okay, so Councillor Webb moved it. Deputy Mayor Giroux, you go ahead, and if you want to second it, that would be helpful, but that's up to you.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say hi, Ryan. How you doing? It's good to see you, and thank you for your report. Much appreciated. I have a question for you. The design and build services is a little bit different, I think, than what we normally do. Well, as I recall, we normally have an engineer design it and so on. And I'm sure you have some good reasons for the design build. My question, I guess, is will Parks and Rec, will council have any input in what perhaps may be needed in the design of a splash pad? Or do we just have to take the design build what is offered to us without, I just want to know if we're going to have input into it, that's all.
Oh, yeah, so through you, Mr. Mayor Martin, absolutely. Once we receive the proposals and we get them narrowed down and we kind of have one that we select that we want to work with, that would be the time that we could start having discussions about typical things that we would like to see in there. Absolutely, we would play a big role in helping in the design. So, but yeah, typically like we would do a design study first, and then we would go out and post for tender to get it done. But just kind of given the timing of the year and the excitement to get something moving, like it does save us, 3 to 4 months doing it this way. And there's a lot of qualified contractors that have been doing a lot of design build work for splash pads. So in this kind of in this type of project, like it's pretty common to do a design build. It streamlines it and makes it a little bit quicker, right?
Well, your last comment, I think, answered my follow-up question. So thank you for that, Ryan. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Right, Councillor Pomeroy.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Ryan. Now, when we get the design build, you're probably going to have like 1, 2, 3 different choices, and council can make a decision on which one they want. Is that what I'm understanding?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So typically, like following our purchasing procurement policy, there's within a request for proposal package, all vendors or anyone that is going to make a submission with their proposals, what they have is we post an evaluation matrix. So they basically score points in certain areas of the project, and then typically what happens is 3 staff members sit down and we do an evaluation, and we have to go through them very thoroughly to make sure that they meet the criteria, and then we have to evaluate them based on the criteria set out in the document itself. We could have a counselor or a couple counselors if they wish to come in and be part of that process. That's not something we haven't done in the past year, so that's a possibility.
Okay, go ahead, Barry.
Just to follow up. So for a design build, do you have to give the contractor X number of dollars on what we want to spend? That's what I'm getting at. Like, it isn't fair to say we want to spend $200,000 or $300,000. So the design build, if he's in that range, whichever range you choose, I think they have to be, have something to go on. Like, I know if I was going to build something and you said, well, how much money do you want to spend? That would probably be the first thing you're asked. Eh? Even when you're building a house or anything, you want to know how much money it's going to cost. I'm not against splash pad. I'm all for it. But how much money are we going to spend? Bring that back to us, and I think it is a council decision whether.
I think the numbers were in the first report, but it's one of those decisions of whether you put the numbers in there. Councillor Webb, go ahead.
Yeah, I understand Councillor Pomeroy's concerns. To me, what I'd rather see, I don't want to set a money limit. I'd rather see Ryan bring me maybe a design of something that's 150, a design of something that's 250, and a design of something that's 350, and we can make our decision that way. I think that would be a little bit better. And in the end, yes, we're going to be the ones to decide how much money we want to spend on this. But I think it would also open up the range of possibilities in terms of what we could do over there. I think if we set a money limit, we're going to get 3 very similar things with a few, trinkets swapped in and out. So I would rather see something like that, maybe in increments of $100,000 in terms of what you could do, you know, to make it better and more unique from, we all know that every town has one of these. So, you know, what way can we make Havelocks better than the other towns possibly? So that's what I would like to see.
So I think the thing there, Bob, is the range there, even just put a range in there so you don't get a bunch of a bunch of applications for something. Like you said, they can range from 150,000. So if we gave the range of, we hate giving the numbers, but I mean, that's realistically, there's a number out there that these things cost. Councillor Ellis, go ahead.
Well, I think what will help us weed through this is the fact that you're going to have concept design drawings. Is that correct, Ryan?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, so adding to what was just said with concepts, it's going to help us, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, so I think if you can get it out there with the, unfortunately, you're going to get a ton of applications, like you say, with all over the place without putting a number with it. But that's the risk you take without putting number in there. So it's up to council. If you want numbers in there, we can hold it up and do it at the next meeting. But go ahead, Dave.
I'd like to second the motion that Councillor Webb has made.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a mover and a seconder to get this report going as presented. Staff recommendation here. Councillor Pomeroy, go ahead.
Can we get Bob to read this back to us?
So it was a staff recommendation, so it's council provide approval for the manager of parks. You want to read it, Bob? It's right there.
No, not really, but I think Councillor Pomeroy likes just having fun with me. But so the resolution would be that council approved that the manager of Parks, Recreation and Facilities draft and release a request for proposal documents with key deliverables, objectives, and the scope of work for the design build to initiate this project.
Thank you.
All right.
Welcome, sir.
So we have a mover and a seconder for that recommendation. Any other questions? So all in favor of the motion? And that's carried. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
All right, our next item on the agenda is Bob Angioni, the clerk, and acting chief administrative officer, and Ray Haynes with regards to fire safety grant transfer payment agreement.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin. Chief Haynes has successfully applied for a grant, a fire safety grant, and the Township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen has been allocated $5,700 for this grant. To conclude the process, we do require a resolution from council to accept the agreement in order to receive the funds.
All right, Councillor Pomeroy.
I'll make a motion.
Moved by Councillor Pomeroy and seconded by Councillor Webb. Any questions, comments? Larry, go ahead.
You're muted, Larry.
Thank you. When we went through budget, we allotted almost $15,000 for training and education. So this grant, it's always great to get grants. So this is on top of what we budgeted for, or does that, how does that affect our budget dollars? I guess
It won't affect our budget dollars, I don't think. Is Ray there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, Ray, this grant here, how does that affect the budget?
It's for training and inspections to do virtual inspections as well. And it's also for the training to try and do the website and virtual training sessions as well. So it's going to go towards that because right now we're not doing hands-on training.
Okay, this is something.
So this is over and above.
Okay.
Okay, I get that, but I'm just saying we budgeted almost 15 grand, and So does that mean we're not gonna need 15 grand in the budgeted fire department for training and education?
Hopefully we will continue to get back into the training and we will need that, yes.
And that was it. Okay, so I guess the other part of my comments were with COVID, what kind of training do we anticipate even doing?
I think it's the virtual side of things.
Yeah, the virtual, and it's a lot of online training that they're doing through the training center.
Okay, just curious, again, it's always great to get grant money, but if we already had budgeted that much money and then we've got another 57 on top, at the end of the term or the end of the year, the 15 grand that we budgeted, there should be excess money left from what we budgeted for. Am I saying it so it's understandable?
That will go to reserves.
Yeah, there could be.
From Chief Rain Haynes.
Pardon me, Larry, you were cut. I lost you there.
Okay, so at the end of the year, we've budgeted almost 15 grand for education and training. And we've been approved for this grant. So that's pushing us over 20,000. At the end of the year, I presume there will be, especially because of COVID, excess funds left over and it goes into a reserve.
It would go into our reserves, and if you also read the agreement, I believe there's a time limit that we have to spend this money. So we're not 100% sure if things do get shut down, if we have to give the money back.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Dave, and then Councillor Webb. Sorry, Deputy Mayor Joe.
Thank you, Mayor Martin, and thank you, Chief Haynes, for your efforts to get this grant well done. And I don't know whether we had a seconder on the motion or not. Did we, Mayor Martin?
I think, no, I don't think we did. I think, Bob?
Through you, Mayor Martin, I'm not sure if we've even had a mover. Have we had a mover
Well,
on
I'm
this?
going to move it.
All right, let's do that.
I thought Barry
Barry
did.
moved it.
Yeah. So, and Dave
So I've
seconded.
got Councillor Palmer and Councillor Webb. That's correct.
Okay.
We just need a vote on this. It's all good.
I don't have a pen with me. That's one thing I ran out and left, and there's nothing in this office, so. Anyways,
There's no budget for pens.
I can see that. Okay, so we have a
I
mover.
can
and
buy
a
some
seconder.
pens.
I'll call the question here unless there's any more questions around this. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, our next item here is with regards to declaration of surplus property at Miller Timber.
Martin?
Oh,
Mayor Martin?
Councillor Webb, go ahead.
No, sorry, yeah, not to get this going, just to comment on the last thing. Thanks, Ray, for the report. And just to Councillor Ellis's point, when that money goes to reserves, I think that's why council's been bringing up lately a request for a review of our reserve policy, in that a lot of this grant money is slowly, it's getting used up, obviously, in lieu of budget dollars, but I mean, it's going back into these reserves, and I don't know if we're really recouping that the best way possible. So I just wanted to comment on that, because I think that might have been what Councillor Ellis was getting at.
Yeah, I think we're going to be looking at reserves, and that's a good point. So, okay. All right, then we'll move on to the next item. Thank you, Ray. Declaration of surplus property, Miller Timber Sands. Bob? You're muted. Got to say it to you for a change.
There we go. Let's try that one again. Okay. So through you, Mayor Martin, back in August of 2020, a planning application was brought forward from Miller Timber Sands for a development and the purchase of the road allowance that bisects bisects their property. So there were conditions with respect to the resolution that was passed by council, as noted in the report. I'll just bring this up here. So the opinion of values have been brought forward now for council's consideration.
Okay, and we're always leery on doing these things. It's, we're hoping that we've got all the information, and by the looks of it, it's pretty straightforward. It's just, Deputy Mayor Giroux, go ahead.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin. Thank you for your report, Bob. I think all the questions were asked back in August. There's no concerns of the road allowance going to the water anymore. That was already done years ago. And I don't think we're interfering with anyone crossing the property, to my understanding. So we're not cutting anybody off from getting to their property, with my understanding. So I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, we have a moved by Deputy Mayor Giroux that we approve this recommendation. Seconded by Councillor Ellis. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? And that's carried.
So through you, Mayor Martin, just for further explanation. So today is declaring the property surplus. The final conveyance will take place at a future meeting.
Okay, thank you. All right then, our next item on the agenda here is the exemption from the sign bylaw, and this is with regards to Wildflower Bakery. And it's been a long time since we've dealt with this bylaw on highways for advertising on Highway 7. At one time, it was quite an issue to put signs out there because there was a lot more businesses on the back street. But this one here is kind of a one-off here right now. So there is a good recommendation here. I don't know what council's thoughts are. Councillor Webb, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I was gonna make a comment that, well, I was gonna make a motion to approve it. With a comment that the Economic Development Committee is looking at this. We realize that moving forward, a lot of the businesses maybe that used to be on George Street aren't there, but we're looking at possibly ideas for signage along the Highway 7 corridor that would feature that aren't on Highway 7, whether it be downtown business district sign with an arrow, something like that. Those kind of things are being discussed at the committee level right now, and hopefully within a month or so we can bring something back to council with a recommendation.
All right, thank you. Okay, so Bob, go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Martin. Further to the comments from Councillor Webb, this sign bylaw is quite outdated, and it's time for a refresh on the sign bylaw. So when the Economic Development Committee brings forward some recommendations, we can certainly update the bylaw.
Thank you. All right then, did you move that, Hart?
Yep.
All right, do I have a seconder?
Second the motion, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Ellis seconds the motion. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. So the next item we have on the agenda is a report from the CAO with regards to the purchase of the Midtown property. Go ahead, Bob.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin. This report confirms the purchase of the property known as 116 County Road 46, and allows council to move forward with some of your stated goals with respect to efficiencies and preparing for shovel-ready projects.
Okay, and I'd like to see that in there as long as we can get onto it right away as far as getting the project shovel ready for future. All right, so what's the recommendation here? Go ahead, Councillor Webb.
Yeah, I'll just make a motion that we approve the recommendation with another comment in that we'd like to thank council for their hard work on this, and then hopefully the purchase of this property will lead to bigger and better things for HBM in the future in terms of possibly a new town office and a new workshop road.
You froze right at town office, so let's just leave it at that. So, okay, thank you. Moved by Councillor Webb that we go with the recommendation. Do I have a seconder? seconded by Deputy Mayor Giroux. With a comment?
Small comment. I'd like to thank whoever designed the picture. I know perhaps our viewing audience can't see the concept picture, but it's definitely certainly a good start. And yes, we're going to move forward. So
Yeah, and I don't know, Bianca, is it possible just to put that picture up just for a second there? So if anybody
Yep, through you, Mayor Martin, we will put that up on the screen, and that concept drawing is thanks to the wizardry of Margaret at in our front office.
Okay, thank you. All right then. So it's just a concept drawing and just taking pictures from other areas, but it gives you an idea what's possible. So hopefully we can work towards something similar. Thank you, Bianca. So, all right, that's the end of staff reports with follow-up action. Councilor Pomeroy, go ahead. Did I not call the question? There you
No,
go.
through you, Mayor Martin, yes, you can call the
right.
question now.
I can see it. I can see the wheels turning. Go ahead, Barry.
Okay, and may I add a comment to Bob's comment? I'd like to thank John for going out and taking these pictures too, and Margaret for putting them together. It looked pretty good.
All right. Okay, so, and thank you everyone for all the work involved. So I'll call the question. All in favor of the motion? And that's carried. Thank you. All right, next we have correspondence with follow-up action on 2 items. The first one is with regards to the bottle drive and the Lions. They're from Ralph Joss. They're looking for us to help them get this bottle drive going, and it's one of those things that we haven't ever finished a policy around this, so it's been hard to let anyone go with it. So what's council's thoughts here? It's I can already read this one. Just let me. So anyways, they were looking at trying to get something started. I know we have other organizations in the township looking at similar things, but what's your thoughts? Councillor Webb and then Deputy Mayor Giroux.
Well, just for clarification, are they looking to start their own, or are they looking to piggyback off of what we've started?
I think it's to go with what we started. They want to use the transfer stations, and that's the thing. We don't have a policy around it yet, and we should have got that done here before we start opening it up. When we first did it, it was for youth. We were talking youth, yep. and this is kind of outside of what we were talking about. So that's why I had suggested to him that he write a letter to council, because it's not what we were talking about. So go ahead.
It just for clarification, that's what I mean. Are they, when they run the program, are they going to run it but still give the funds to these local organizations, or are they going to keep the funds in the Lions Club and out through the Lions Club as their donations? That's kind of what I'm wondering.
Yeah. They said about continuing to support the community, and that's the thing. I know they're running dry over there. That's some of the issues around the Lions. So
no,
so I don't know. The policy's missing here. That's the thing. It's like everything else. If we just open it up without a policy, we should have got that done here probably sooner than later. But Dave, you had something?
Thank you, Mayor Martin. Through you. Yeah, we all know that the Havelock Lions Club is an old, outstanding club that's done many, many things for our municipality. And I can see where they're coming from here. There are some things in the letter that I didn't quite understand. They've already made a trailer. I don't know why they would go ahead and do that without first talking to someone. I don't quite understand the part of the letter whether they're willing to work with other organizations to assist in the bottle drive, or I don't know whether they're talking about a bottle drive or we won't have any control of this if we don't know who's going in and out of there. Cambrian is at the present time redesigning our transfer station, the ones on the 6th line, that is. And we're going to have a set of weigh scales. And I think if we take this at the present time out of the hands of HBM, in particular the roads department, we're going to lose control of it. And I wouldn't want to see that. There's liability involved and so on. I would support the Lions Club in any way I can personally, and I know we all do. If they want to have bottle drives around Havelock or wherever, that's one thing that we can assist from. But I just have concerns with this at the particular time. It could come back perhaps sometime after we redesign the 6th line transportation, but not now, not at this particular time, not for me anyway.
Yeah, I think there's some information missing here. The trailer, they did it for the skating club last year. The trailer that he's talking about, I think, is the trailer they used for the figure skating club. I seen Councillor Webb and Councillor Ellis.
Yeah, no, I was just going to comment on the trailer like you. I think Ralph actually lent that to the figure skating club last year. But I was going to say that moving forward, we've had discussion here and there's been points made in terms of, possibly there being major work done out there in the late summer, early fall at the waste disposal site. Can we not maybe direct staff to work with Ralph or the Lions Club, and in terms of formulating, I guess council will have to be involved too in terms of formulating an actual policy, but I don't know if I really see much leeway going on this through this summer. So maybe use this summer to nail all this down, and then we can go, next year.
Okay.
And I'm not saying the bottle drive wouldn't continue this year. That would just continue the way we ran it last year. I'm just saying in terms of, there's too many questions here in terms of liability and whatnot that haven't been answered. And I don't know if they'll, it's obviously going to take time to get the answers to these questions. So.
Yeah, I think we need to have more discussion here, but go ahead, Councillor Ellis.
Yeah, well, I'm in agreement with what's being said here, but I would kind of like not to see it put off for the year. Everybody's struggling, and the few dollars here and a few dollars there is what makes things survive at this time. But I think with Ralph's correspondence here, it's a little unclear. Let's have some more discussion there first. But we also need to get something in place as a policy. But to just close it off for the ones that were making a little bit of money from the drives, I kind of like to see it go if we can make it go in some manner.
So I think we've been working towards it, and I think we can deal with that stuff. I think May long weekend was where I was kind of looking at when to try and have something in place. And I think there's some questions that need answered, and there's no reason why we can't be done by May long weekend. We even talked about sheds in our budget to help, store some of the stuff instead of leaving the trailer on there. So all those things we can, I'm sure we can work something out. We just need some more answers here. So we'll leave it at that. But so Councillor Pomeroy, then Deputy Mayor Giroux, and then Councillor Webb.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I have to agree with Deputy Mayor Giroux. 6th line is going to be busy. We don't need more people around there than, in the way. And the liability part, I think we're going to have to really discuss that, because anybody that comes onto our property for to collect bottles or whatever, I know we've let it go in the past, but what happens if one of them gets caught? We end up in court. They go to the deepest pockets, that. We've been in a few situations like that. It's something we got to be serious about. And I don't know if the Lions Club could even get permission from, say, the Legion for their parking lot, for to make a bottle drive. I don't know. That takes the onus off of the municipality. And as far as having sheds down at the transfer station, I always want to call it the dump. It costs money to put those sheds there. then we're gonna have to have a man hired for to do that work, for to separate. So how are we gonna recover that money? You know, are you gonna recover the cost of the shed before you start donating it to the Lions Club, the figure skating club, the hockey, you know, scouts, whatever? So that's just questions put forth, but I think the liability thing is probably one of the most important.
Yeah, I think, okay, go ahead, Dave.
Without, I don't want to be negative on this because we have a great organization, but we have to be considerate also. Now, we did have a trailer down there for the figure skating club. As far as I know, it was only there once. Maybe I don't go there as much as I think I do, but the last time I took bottles in there, I asked Kevin where he would like them, and he said, throw them right there because they're going in the back of my truck, because they've never brought a trailer back. So my question is, can anyone tell me the last time they took bottles out of there for an organization? And we've got a situation in the park where there's no volunteers to take stuff down that we put up. So it's you know, you got to get a handle on this.
Yeah, and I think, go ahead, Councillor Webb.
Well, no, all I wanted to state was, I don't know, I guess I didn't express myself very clearly there, is I'm closing down the bottle program for the summer. I'm just saying that we put off this, you know, merging with the Lions Club until, you know, maybe at a later date. I don't think we can get that done. The bottle drive would continue just the way we ran it last year. And to the Deputy Mayor's point, it was a good one. I've had discussions with the group that ran it last year, and the lady that ran it, she has been in contact with other organizations trying to get them to take over what she was doing last time. As of now, she hasn't been met with a whole lot of luck. So moving forward, hopefully we can get that straightened out. As the mayor said, hopefully by the long weekend that we can have something there operating.
So I think, oh, go ahead, Dave.
One last comment. I think we're overlooking one little thing here. And I don't want to put him on the spot, but I'd ask Peter Lawson to speak to this. I mean, he's responsible for the transfer station. Like I said, I don't want to put him on the spot, but maybe he'll have some input.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin, to Deputy Mayor Giroux. I have spent quite a bit of time dealing with Cambium and our ECA, which has to be amended for the scales, and researched all of the other transfer stations, West Kosh, and about amending them or making notes in the ECA to allow sheds or to allow buildings to go on there for the storage for our bottle return program. It has to be documented because we have to put that information into our diversion for the county of Peterborough, and so it all has to be tracked, whether it be $1 from amount that we receive, or it can be also weighed as our scales get put in place. The diversion can be handled either way, by money or by weight, by what's going out from the county of Peterborough. So there's quite a bit involved in it, and I have spent quite a little bit of time getting everything in place, but we still do have some issues there to work out as to how it's going to be run, who's going to be running it, the liabilities, and as Deputy Mayor Giroux did say, the 6th line is going to be. It has been busy and it continues to be busy with the cottagers, and with the scales going to be going ahead. It will be a lot down at the 6th line this year. So.
Okay, and so I think we're making it a lot more complicated than it has to be. This is something that happens in Buckhorn, and you know, and the construction part of it is going to complicate things out there. Totally understand that, Peter. If it's going to be too congested around there, it might not be the year to be able to do it. But I think the Lions fit right into it. I think when we are setting a policy up, rather than let everyone go in there and you don't know who's in there and who's doing what, the way the Buckhorn one works is they have a kind of like a sports group that is an umbrella group over all of the sports, and they collect they do all the management of that part of it. And this might be a good thing. It might be worth talking to the Lions, because if they're going to be the leaders in this and they're going to distribute it throughout the community like they always do with all their other fundraising events, they might be able to manage this, collect all the bottles, do all the managing side of it. And all we got to do is ask Buckhorn to get their policy and how they're doing it for insurance. And we're not reinventing the wheel here. This is something that's been happening for years in other areas. They might be the lead on this that'll help us with the rest of the group so we don't lose a season. So I think for the next meeting, we can, or whatever in the future, we can talk to the Lions, we can get together the policy from Buckhorn and try and get this thing, whether it's maybe the 6th line doesn't work, because in the first place, it was only going to be the 6th line, not all the rest of the waste sites or transfer stations. But, if we focus to try and get this going, whether it's the 6th line or the Oak Lake or whatever it is, we can do baby steps here, but there's some money and the diversion side of it is the good thing. So these aren't going, well, if they're going in the back of a truck, that's one thing, but if they're going into the bin, that's not what the county wants to see. They want to see these things going to where they're supposed to go. So let's have some conversation with the Lions and let's look up that report from Buckhorn on how they do it. And maybe there's something we can put together here and get it happening. That's my thoughts. Any other questions or comments? Go ahead, Larry, and then Dave.
Well, just without prolonging this, as Councillor Webb indicated, the girls or the group that did it last year are struggling to find somebody to carry on and do. So as you say, Mayor Joe, or Mayor, geez, Mayor Martin, that maybe the Lions through Ralph Josh is the answer for this year. But again, the policy, a conversation again with the Lions, and maybe that's our answer.
Okay, so so how about a motion that we bring this back with some more information to an upcoming meeting?
We'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Moved by Councillor Ellis. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Pomeroy, any more discussion? Dave, go ahead.
So before this comes back, we're going to have something from Buckhorn, because as our manager said, we have to report this to Peterborough County waste diversion. So do they do it in Buckhorn? There's a lot of questions that has to be answered.
Yeah, like hopefully we can have it at the future meeting, and whether it's the next meeting or whatever, but if we could bring back the information on how they're doing it too, I think that'll simplify things here. And they've been doing it for years, so it's and it's done properly. It's all, so we'll bring that. Bob has some of the information already, so we'll bring that back. Okay. So we have a mover and a seconder. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? And that's carried. So, okay, we'll see what we can do there. And the next one is there was a action item, I guess, or it's we've had a lot of correspondence with regards to private road grant program. So this is one of the letters that came in, I guess, Bob, that you shared from many.
Yes, through you, Martin, this particular email is representative of a number that have been received.
Okay. All right then. So so we can receive it, or we can that's Councillor Webb, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to make a motion that we direct staff to re-examine this issue and possibly come up with I think it was Councillor Ellis had the idea before of, if we're not going to give them the 15,000, which I really don't understand why we aren't. I haven't heard a good reason as to why we can't do that, but we'll leave it at that. Make it available to them to purchase the materials for their construction at the cost that we do. So I don't know if we could have staff maybe look into that, if there's a policy we could have drawn up.
Okay, were you making that a motion then, Councillor Webb?
Yeah.
Staff, look at, I think the term back then was made an HBM policy.
Yeah, I think that was in the email, so.
Suggested something, but anyways, okay, Bob, go ahead.
Sorry, through you, Mayor Martin, if I could just get clarification from Councillor Webb. So Councillor Webb, is your motion is for the purchase of materials?
Oh, his is,
Or is this a grant or a purchase of materials? I'm not sure. There's two different items there.
okay,
So what I'm saying is if they want to make repairs to their roads, they would be able to purchase the materials through HBM at the same cost that we get them at.
Okay, it's a purchase of materials policy. Okay, thank you.
okay. So Councillor Webb has made a motion there with regards to purchase of material. It was something we talked about years ago. Never did it. It's going to be complicated too, because I don't know how you give out slips to everyone for 3,000 truckloads of fill or whatever they want. If there's no policy around it, it's going to be tough to do. But Councillor Ellis, go ahead.
Well, in that case, I'm looking to CAO Bob. I should be declaring a conflict of interest as well here and be not part of the decision or discussion.
You're totally open to, yeah.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Martin, staff will not advise on the declaration of conflict. This is a decision of each individual councillor.
I'm going to declare conflict. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, through you, Mayor Martin, we will remove Councillor Ellis from the meeting.
All right then. Deputy Mayor Droe, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Martin. So I'm perfectly clear on the motion. This motion has nothing to do, hasn't anything to do with the first request from the road, what's the proper term, Bob? The road associations from the lakes. This has nothing to do with that. It's a totally different motion to create a policy that the road associations can purchase at HBM's cost, culverts, gravel, whatever it might be. The policy would have to contain before we order our grand total, when we order first thing in the year, it would have to come in before then, because that's when we get our biggest discount, when we order it all at once. So as long as council and myself, or as long as I understand all that, I would consider supporting the motion, but it has to be clear to that.
So yeah, this is totally different from what we talked about, but I just worry about no policy around it. Like it's more confusing than anything. Go ahead, Bob.
No, through you, Mayor Martin, the staff would certainly bring forward a policy that clearly explains how this program would work and the parameters would be clearly laid out.
Okay. Councillor Webb, go ahead.
Well, as you said, Jim, the 15 grand would have been a lot easier, but moving forward, I don't see it being that complicated, I guess, besides the number of roads you might be dealing with. But, you know, in terms of a policy, I think we can deal with that because we're only going to have so many dollars to be handing out. So, I mean, I don't really see where the problem is here.
Well, there wouldn't be any dollars handed out.
Well, no, but
yeah, the confusion will be is like, we'll have to come up with something. If we're going to hand out coupons or certificates to all the private roads to here, use our card here, you can get our discounted pricing. I don't know, you're right, it's more confusing than the other one, but we did talk about this a lot of years ago and it was suggested, but we never finished it. Maybe there is a policy that we can do that will help them, like if they're going to pay $300 a load for fill and we can get it for $280, it'll save them $20 a load. I just don't know how you work it. Like it's a lot more confusing than the other, but I guess that would be the thing, to leave staff come up with a recommendation in the future for helping with loads of material and whatever. I think at the time when we talked about it, it was things like, even when we're doing the oil on the roads, not oil, the dust suppression on the roads, we were at the time offering that they could come in on our contract there if they came in early enough and get dust suppression on their road too at the same price per liter that we pay. But there's a lot to this, because it'll have to, like Deputy Mayor Giroux said, you got to do it when you're doing your tenders for material. And you don't really have a number to go with it, as far as you don't know how much these people are going to ask for. So
I understand it's not our number one choice. I understand that, but it is giving something back to the people, right?
That's right.
Obviously, our number one choice was voted down, so I'm going for number 2.
Yeah. Okay, Deputy Mayor Giroux.
I'll try and explain my position once more, and I thought it was always quite clear. They say it in every one of their emails that I've received, private roads, and they are private. No different from my driveway or anybody else's driveway. If you want to really give something to the cottages or the road associations, think outside the box here. Give them something that's tangible. Let's start a policy or start the proceeding of garbage pickup and recycling pickup. Everybody gets to use that in the rural. We don't have that. Just about every municipality around us does. If you want to be serious about giving them something, $15,000 isn't the point here. $15,000 in our budget really doesn't mean it. It's not the money for me. It's the private roads. It's as simple as that for me. And I respect everybody else's decision, so you're going to have to respect mine. But if you want to give them something, let's start something for them. Every one of my emails has something to do with, I have to drive to the transfer station. Well, so do I, and so does everybody else in the municipality. Think outside the box if they're wanting something. Perhaps that's something to think about.
Okay, Councillor Webb.
I think we already are addressing that issue. That's a report in terms of the costing. For garbage pickup. I said, I thought we'd already addressed that issue in terms of we'd asked for a costing for garbage pickup in the township.
It never went anywhere. So, yeah, there's two different things here.
Once again, why didn't it go anywhere? Because of cost. So, I mean, if you're not going to spend the 15 here, you're not going to spend it there. Eventually you got to spend some money, boys.
Yeah. Okay. Councillor Pomeroy, go ahead. You're muted. You're muted, Barry.
I say, let's get on with this. We're going round in circles. Now we're into garbage. And I thought there was a new proposal put forth by Councillor Webb. So if we got a seconder for that, or do we not? We can look into it.
Are you seconding it?
Yeah, I think I'll go along with what Dave said in his policy. You're just going to bring a policy forth first, so we can look at it.
Well, Councillor Webb's motion was that we look at, and Bob, you can help me with this, as far as it was option 2 was to
set up a program they could buy it at our cost.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin, just to clarify, that's correct. Councillor Webb suggested that road associations have the opportunity to purchase construction materials at township's cost.
I'm all right with that.
Okay, so we have a mover and a seconder that we look at getting something going to help. And this is an old thing that maybe there's something we can work out. So any other questions or comments? All in favor of the motion? Okay, carried. So So Bob, you can look at trying to come up with something there that that would work to help everyone. And I like Dave's other thing, but we'll leave that for another day.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Martin, staff will bring a policy forward for council's consideration. And just to clarify, staff was never directed via council resolution to explore the cost of garbage pickup throughout the township. If council wishes to do that, we will take the resolution.
Yeah, well, we'll let Councillor Ellis back in, and he can be a part of, we'll move on here. There he is. All right, then. That's all we have for action correspondence. We'll move on to the other items listed there. Is there anything else that anybody wished to speak to? If not, we can, there was one good news thing there with the Royal Canadian Legions receiving some funding. So that's a good thing. Other than that, broadband's a big thing for the public right now, and there's lots of money being put into that. So other than that, I'd look for a motion to receive the balance of the correspondence if there's no other items wish to be pulled. Moved by Councillor Webb. Is there a seconder? Deputy Mayor Giroux. Any other questions or things to be pulled? Or all in favor? And that's carried. All right, our next thing is on the is action, or sorry, let me catch up here. Have a better setup at home. Even have a pen in my office there. So anyways, this the next item on here is committee liaison reports, and the first one here we had was Art Webb, or we'll go with the, let me catch up here. Gordon.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Martin, the county report is first item.
Yeah, all right. Sorry, guys. This is okay. Our first item is, Dave, did you want to go ahead with that?
Okay, I was looking at my papers, or Mayor Martin. Are we referring to the county?
Yeah, yeah, I'm just.
Well, I've lost my paperwork, so I'm gonna have to go off the top of my head, but the tender has been let for, who is it? For County Road 46 from Highway 7 to about 700 meters approximately past County Road 44 for resurfacing, and I believe that went to, I got buried here.
I think it was Miller.
Miller Paving. Thank you, Mayor Martin. Miller Paving, and also County Road 48, I believe, is also out. And I got so many papers in front of me. But anyway, those tenders are out. Basically, there wasn't really too much in county to deal with HBM. There was several other projects to deal with other things. One of interest, Department of Highways. So they're always on a go, and I think perhaps in the future we're going to be seeing one on our own. So I don't have anything other than that I can find here, Mayor Martin, in regards to HBM at the county. We're still doing our organizational service delivery review, which is quite a bit of work, but it's certainly paying off, and one day we'll do our own.
Yeah.
If you have anything else, please cut in.
Yeah, the one, like the Cavan intersection is what was a big discussion at MTO, was looking at realigning and we've had lots of discussions in our area. The difference is we want it done on Highway 7 out here at the east end of town. They don't want it done. It was expropriating houses and things like that weren't going over very well, and they think there's other options. You might have seen it in the news, but anyways, through the discussion, like I had said to them, is this is something that we want realigned in our township, and they won't do it. Where Cavan, they're looking, I guess, at future numbers, and it goes right out to 2040. So they do work ahead. But anyways, yeah, and the microsurfacing, it was actually County Road 30 from what I have on my notes that goes out to the boundary, HBM boundary for a microsurface. And then they're doing 46 right through to 400 feet, 400 yards or meters north of 44. So it's a I forget, like $1.6 million in microsurfacing they're doing in the county, and I think it's almost 700,000 for HBM. So it's a huge project, and it's one of those things to keep on top of the roads. So that's all there was for the county portion. But for HBM specifically, we're trying to just pull the stuff that's going to make it, that our ratepayers want to know about. So it's not always just about HBM, but we've been in there a lot this year as far as bridges and things like that. We're getting a lot of money out this way this last couple of years. So with that, the other was items that Bob Angione had with summary of our items here, and he listed Art, you had something with economic development. I guess it was our meeting. Is there anything you wanted to add to that?
I think we pretty much discussed that with Laura's report, Jim.
Okay, and Councillor Pomeroy, you had a library board meeting on the 8th, and then you had minutes from November meeting.
And
oh.
Yeah. Excuse me. At the library board meeting, we discussed the possibility of the Historical Society moving in to the library, which they coincide together. Robbie Beatty had been talking to, yeah, you know who on the line, Mac.
Diane Mac.
Yeah, Diane Mac, and she's quite excited about it too. But we still have this thing where the Huckabug has part possession of all of it. And I would like somehow or another to get this cleared up, because they moved out, went to their new location, and there's actually nothing going on in that bottom part of that library to speak of. And we could put it to good use, because the Historical Society that's up in the town hall there right now, they're in a dungeon, dirty, filthy. It's not a great place to work, and they can't display their wares. And we do have, a municipality or municipal owned building that we could house them there and have them in a great environment. And I think it would only be appropriate there to maybe get in touch with Huckabug and say that they have broken their lease, and I can't see us keeping that for a kitchen. For that one, we have better use for it.
Okay, and I thought we did deal with it, but if we haven't, so make Councillor Ellis go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I totally agree with what Councillor Pomeroy is stating there. On top of his comments regarding the location, the present location for the Historical Society, I think it's almost to the point where we have people going in there, stuff stored there, and it's almost an unsafe place for it, or for people. So I think Councillor Pomeroy is going the right direction. It's time for us to take that step forward and make something happen here. We've talked about it over the years for year after year, and there they are sitting down in the dungeon there. So I am totally in agreement with Councillor Pomeroy, and would just like to state that. And if there's a motion needed, either Councillor Pomeroy, or he's still on the floor there, can do it, or I can do it, make a motion that we take that step forward to end the relationship with Huckabug. We've done our part over the years to supply them a great place when kids were needed to be there and so on. But I think it's time we take that step forward, and and make this happen.
Okay, so Deputy Mayor Giroux?
Just a question for our CEO. When is Huckabug's lease up?
I thought it was September.
Yes, that's correct. Through you, Mayor Martin, September is correct.
Okay. Yeah, I hesitate to just break their lease. If the children are being fed out of there, then I'm not going to be the one to say I'm breaking your lease. That's all. They've supported this community for all these years, and if they can make a different arrangement by September, that's fine. But between now and then, I'm not going to be the one to support that.
So I think with the timing and with what's going on, nobody's going to be able to use it anyway. So I think it goes back to some of the other comments from other things we're doing. I guess we could make them aware that in come September, that it doesn't look like the lease is going to be renewed. That would be the cleaner way of doing it and the fairest way of doing it so they can prepare. I thought we did have an agreement that most of it is there. They only wanted one room. I thought that's what came back in one of the letters. I thought Bobby and Kathy had made that arrangement. So anyways, I don't know where that went, but that was agreed to by Hucklebug that they only need one room. So anyways, Councillor Webb and then Councillor Pomeroy, and then we'll move on from this.
You can let Barry, go ahead.
Yeah, it's accordingly, the two parties never got together. And it's been a busy year. The library's been closed and so on and so forth. I'm not going to make a big long deal out of this, but furthermore to that, the Huckabug has supported Havelock and Belmont-Methuen. Well, I think Havelock-Belmont-Methuen ratepayers have done a wonderful job supporting the Huckabug because what they pay for rent for a year, it wouldn't cover it for a month. So we're not, we shouldn't be leaving on bad terms because we've treated them very well because they're running a business there. And I have to go along with, I don't know whether Larry made that a motion, but I'm more than willing to second it, that we move on and take over the space down there so that the Historical Society can be in the library downstairs.
Okay. So there wasn't a mover or seconder here yet. Councillor Webb, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to clarify here. So we're gonna inform Huckabug that we won't be renewing the lease in September. Is that
what, nobody's made a motion. If somebody wants to make a motion here, we'll go from there.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Martin, I believe Councillor Ellis did move the motion.
Okay, and can you read it back then, Bob?
Well, the motion is to not renew the rental agreement with Hucklebug, and we pursue using that space for the Historical Society.
Okay, all right then. So we do have a mover, and Councillor Pomeroy is seconding that. Any other questions or comments? Go ahead, Dave, and then Larry.
So perhaps I misunderstood that. I thought Councillor Ellis's motion was that we're going to break the lease now. So that's clarified. Thank you for that, Bob. My other question is, are they going to have the same lease?
Well,
Larry,
through you, Mayor Martin, that's to be determined by council. There will be a new lease.
Okay. Thank
okay.
you.
Larry, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think there's some undecided or unknowns at this present time. For an example, where they presently are. Does a Historical Society, do they pay for where they presently are? I have no idea. But also one last comment regarding the lower part of the library. With the directions come from the province and schooling, it's not there's gonna be no school between now and, from what I understand, unless they've changed. I know they change quite often, but there's supposed to be no schools reopened. Am I correct there?
Daycare is still open.
Daycare is still, but daycare doesn't operate out of there, right?
Just the kitchen.
It's the kitchen. And the school has a kitchen. I'm trying to get this all back in my head from previous discussions, right?
So from what I understand, the kitchen, they can't share food amongst different cohorts. So some of the after school program, the food is coming from a different kitchen than the daycare, because there's still after school set up for parents too. It's one of those things that frontline workers and things like that aren't able to take the day off and stay home, so they have to get their kids somewhere. So that's where it's at right now. I don't know if anybody else has anything to add, but we have a motion on the floor here that we notify Huckleberg that as of September, we won't be renewing the lease. And then the Historical Society would be taking over the basement. So I don't know if that's a part of the motion, Bob, but the main thing here right now is to notify Huckleberg.
And that was the motion.
Okay, so we have a mover and a seconder. Is there any more questions? All in favor of the motion? And that's carried. So we'll move on with that, Bob. Go ahead, Bob.
Yes, through you, Mark, we do need to extend curfew. We have reached our limit for today.
Yeah, okay, so I was gonna try and pick it up here. There's a few things on here that shouldn't take long. Moved by Councillor Pomeroy that we extend the curfew. Seconder, Deputy Mayor Giroux. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, so we have minutes here from the November 19th meeting. I know our we have minutes here from the November 19th meeting of 2020. Does somebody want to make a motion that we receive those? Moved by Councillor Webb, seconded by Deputy Mayor Giroux. All in favor? And that's carried. Dave, go ahead.
You're muted, Dave.
You're muted.
Are we on to EOTA?
Yeah.
Okay, very quickly. In conjunction with EOTA, we're going fine, everything's good. Bob and I received a late email from the Peterborough County ATV Club in regards to the parking lot on County Road 50, and the club always cut the grass down there, and the municipality enlarged the parking lot, and they wanted to know if they could go in and straighten it up so they could continue to cut it, because it was left rough, and it would take a contractor to do that. We don't normally let contractors do that unless they're well insured. I know he is, but rather than get into that, I would rather, if Peter, are you still there? Peter's not there, but I did discuss it with him. We looked at it. It wouldn't take them probably an hour to straighten it up so the club can cut the grass, continue to cut the grass and pick up the garbage this year. Council can sit on this decision till the next council meeting if they like. That's fine with me. I just wanted to bring it forward because Bob and I did receive the email.
Okay.
So we can make that decision next time. That's fine with me.
That might be the easiest way. Hopefully they're not cutting before next meeting and we can deal with it then.
Yep.
Yeah. Through you, Mayor Martin, I can include the email with our council package.
Okay. Okay. So is there anything else, Dave, with the OTA?
No, no, everything's fine.
And yeah, and as far as me with all my conference calls and everything, I don't know why it works on all these other ones, but it don't work for HBM. But I seem to be on this computer a lot and don't have any other issues. But April 8th, we did have a efficiencies meeting with the county as far as police service boards and looking at amalgamating them into one to try and save some time and money. There's a lot of work going on that in the background with the CAOs and police service boards. We'll see where it goes. Also on April 8th, I had a meeting with Monsif, Mary Monsif, for the her regular meeting every week, and she talked about the budget, what was coming, and you know, we had a bit of discussion around there with Stu Harrison. We've been pushing for VIA. It does look like there's some money in the budget this time for, from what I've seen last night, it's almost $700 million, $500 million for VIA work. So that hopefully is good for us. And we'll have to keep an eye on that. But finally, they're committed to doing something with the rapid rail service. So Rhonda Keenan was there, and she was talking about a whole new business plan for PCAD because of this pandemic. It's not what, it doesn't look anything like when she started. Everything is upside down. So she's got her work cut out for her to try and straighten that out. Tracy Dayfo comes on a lot of the meetings for the farming community, and she said the impacts for the farm producers has been big because of the restaurants being closed and the slowdown it's affecting all of them too. So and then April 9th, we got our grand announcement for the community center, and there's going to be more details come out about that, but that's going to be big for Havelock-Belmont-Methuen. Hopefully in the next week or so, we can get a better report out as far as what it means to Havelock-Belmont-Methuen. But that's going to be great to allow us to move forward over at the community center. We've been waiting since November of 2019 was when we applied for it. And part of the announcement there, when it was being brought out, Mary Monsif said that I've been on to her every week for the last 6 months, and our MPP Smith said that that might be his fault because he told me back in July that the province had pushed their side of it through. But I assured them that I would take them off speed dial now, and we'll do our part now to try and make things happen with that. So much appreciated. And then I had my Crow meeting on the 15th, and that'll be on the next report. So that's all I have here with regards to the meetings that I attended since the last meeting. So other than that, I'll look for a motion just to receive all the reports from council that were listed. Moved by Councillor Webb. Is there a seconder? Councillor Pomeroy, all in favor? And that's carried. Next, we move into other business, and there's a list of things here. We could probably speed things up because a lot of these things could be probably sorted out with staff. But Councillor Ellis, you had something here with invite Dr. Halawadi. Okay. Yeah. So do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get it up my screen here. Not that I don't need it, but yeah, I would like to have Dr. Halawadi invited to council to be introduced to council. I've done a little bit of work with her and her husband over the last 6 or 7 months to find her a permanent location here, or a location suitable to her. She wanted something larger, but there's nothing else available. Anyway, she did. From what I understand from talking with her, she was fairly active at Marmarin Lake with a couple of the council members, the Reeve, former Reeve, and one of the council members that is no longer there. But she was quite active regarding bringing medical staff or doctors to Marmara, and is looking forward to working with HBM in the same manner. So she's quite encouraging, and I think it'd be great to have her come give her own introduction and get acquainted with our staff and council. So yeah, so that's the reason for putting it on there. And also, we talked in the past through economic development as having inviting or introducing or welcoming, I guess is a better word, to new businesses or people coming to our municipality. And I think this is an opportune time for through economic development to do that as well. So.
Okay. Yeah, it's normally this happens before this. It's funny that how she's came to town and nobody knew anything about it, but seems a little backwards. But that's, you know, we should invite her in. It would be nice to know what's going on down there. I know we've all had questions, but nobody really knows what it is. So, so Bob, maybe you could make that happen for an upcoming meeting. Okay. And as far as the economic development, we can take that to the Economic Development Committee, Art, and look at that. So next on the list here is Councillor Pomeroy. He's got a few things here that a lot of these things could be dealt with staff, but go ahead.
I won't take it. First one there is the trailer for Public Works for the water repairs. I talked to Peter yesterday, and he's talked to Ray. The trailer's down behind the sand shed right now, so they can utilize that. And according to the two of them, Ray's got, you know, very little use for it. What he has in there can be put in another building, so that should be all done. The other one is the ozone update. Have we got any update on our ozone, Bob?
Through you, Mayor Martin, Ontario Clean Water Agency is working on this item. They will be returning to council at a future meeting to provide us an update of all items on their list.
Okay. And the park gates are closed. You know, they do this yearly, and I think Hart and I both talked about it last year at this time, and they kept saying, well, it was for insurance purposes. Well, if there's anything happens that the park and the fire department is called for whatever, medical or whatever, you know, they could drive straight down King Street and into the park. And it's a means of entry and egress, and I don't see why that we really have to have it closed. I know it's been a thing for the past, but can we change it?
I think from what I heard from the insurance was a lot of the issues is around that ball diamond. If the cars are going to be coming through there, we're going to have other insurance issues. But do you have any answers to that, Ryan?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. No, I'm just gonna add to that the safety was the #1 priority, and that's where it came from. So they thought closing it off between those times of the year would reduce the amount of traffic that comes through the arena parking lot there, and it kind of protects the users and the kids running around. So if council wishes to do something or make a change, like it's in a bylaw, that would have to be amended for us to do that. But as of right now, we're just following the bylaw that was set by council. So.
Yeah, and further to that, we could go around the arena the other way and not go across the front of the arena. But anyway, I'm just going to leave it at that for right now because I know we're in a hurry. The CPR drain, the Plan Mac Engineering, have we got any word on that? Like, I think it had to go through the federal government. So Jim, have you been talking to Miriam on this at all? Or, you know, I don't know that Paul Max, we don't get any information.
So that's one of the questions when Bob and I met with her. We had 3 issues, and that was one of the things. And I haven't talked to her since the budget was released. I don't know if it's in there under infrastructure, but that's what we asked, if they would help us with that. I don't know who signed it back. It's too bad it's got put back onto the township that, you know, it's our responsibility. Years ago, I guess it got signed over back to us, but I did ask for help and I'm waiting for an answer. I'm hoping this budget maybe has something in there, especially if they're talking on taking trains through here to Quebec or whatever. It's there's going to have to be some upgrades there anyways, and hopefully we can get into that part of it, but nothing yet.
Okay, and the outdoor arena, I see the water's finally out a bit now. And there was some people worried about their kids drowning over there, but now the big thing is to get the rest of it off the ball diamond.
Okay, yeah, I talked to Dave last week about it, but you go ahead, Ryan.
Okay, yeah, so I was talking to Dave about this. He's really having a challenging time organizing an event where he's asking volunteers to come out to take this down. He did ask, he did request that it got brought up at council to say if council will be comfortable with allowing some of our staff this year to do that. Technically, the ball field is closed under those new restrictions, so we really can't ask Dave and his volunteers to come in and do that. So I don't think it's an unreasonable request. We did go through the procedure of taking it down, and you know, David said like 2 guys would be, you know, like a morning job to get it done. So I think it should get cleaned up. It's too bad that, you know, the timing of year and having people, like, it's confusing whether you're allowed to have organized events to clean up a rink or not. Like, maybe this year we should just, you know, if council wants to just agree and say we could clean it up and get rid of it. It's really up to them. And Dave was pretty good at it. He said on the phone, like, if they don't go for it, that's fine. It's just, I'll have to figure something out. Like, he's, you know, just like any other contractor right now, his things are really taking off, and it's challenging. So.
Okay, Councillor Pomeroy.
Yeah, supplementary. Could our man not go in there and take that down?
It's up to council. That's what I think Ryan's asking. If council's okay.
Yeah, if council's comfortable with that, like I had said to Dave, like, we could do it. He kind of gave me some ideas how he typically takes it apart and how it goes, and he had full confidence that we could do it. And he said it'd probably take 2 guys, like about a morning and be.
Yeah.
So it's really not a big deal. We probably should get it out of there. Probably should help them out, but that's council's decision.
Okay, Dave, you had something there?
Thank you for that comment, Ryan. Under the conditions of COVID, everybody is restricted, so I fully understand that. Otherwise, I wouldn't agree with it. However, I do have a question. So if we go ahead and take it down, where's it going to be stored?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, typically it's been stored at his farm.
So are we responsible for taking it down there, or will they come and get it?
We could do it either way. We could load it and take it out there, or he can come down and pick it up, I guess, whichever. Well, I mean, if we're gonna, I don't know, for me, I guess if we're gonna be handling it, we might as well throw it in a trailer, and then you're not handling it 3 times. But it doesn't really matter to me.
Well, it's not. I guess that's not that big of an issue, as long as Dave understands if there's any damage or anything, then we're not going to be responsible for it.
Yep.
So I would suggest that you just take it right out there so we don't have it stolen or something taken from it. It's just if you could load it and take it out of there. But Councillor Webb, go ahead.
Well, I understand that construction's been limited, but in terms of that being there and it being a hazard, as Councillor Pomeroy said, to children, wouldn't that be deemed as an emergency? So wouldn't he be allowed to take that down because it'd be deemed as a danger to our community?
I think it's the thing of getting the group together to do it. That's the problem. He can do it himself, but I think that's it. So.
No, but I understand, but construction, like I'm just saying, construction goes on. So I imagine as long as they're socially distancing, he could have 2 or 3 people. You know, if not, I don't care one way or another, get it out of there. Right, but
yeah, I think it's one of those things this year. Let's just get it out of there, and let's you know, and we'll deal with it next year. I think is the best, the simplest way. Councillor Pomeroy, go ahead.
So do you want a motion then? Did we request Ryan and the staff to disassemble that and deliver it down to Dave Sharp's.
Yeah, that would be good. Or there's a motion there to, for you guys to take it apart, Brian, and get rid of it. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Webb? Okay. All in favor of the motion? Okay, carried. So if you could do that, that would be good. Get things back to normal there, at least somewhat normal. Anyways, okay, and that's all I have here. Was there anything else, Dave? I seen your hand come up during the ozone part of it, I think, but go ahead. You're muted.
Thank you, Mayor Martin. I have been asked to bring up one more under other business, and that's in regards to the garbage containers that had been placed around town. Those people that don't use them should be reminded to use them. But when our staff is out and about and they see it on the sidewalk or whatever, I've been asked to just remind them that maybe to reach down and pick it up and throw it in. And that goes along with our roads crew when they're out patching. If they see any, would they just please pick it up and dispose of it? I'm not asking them to go out on a special trip, but when they're out and about, both in the village and in the township, would they just make that extra step and pick the garbage up? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, that's okay. Go ahead, Councillor Pomeroy.
That's for you, Mayor Martin. Whatever happened to Brad Smith? He was supposed to. No, I guess not on this delegation. It's in the next one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right then. So that's the end of new business. I'll look for a motion to receive the new business items. Moved by Councillor Webb, seconded by Deputy Mayor Dro. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, next written or oral notice of motion. I missed that. I didn't have any written ones. Was there any oral ones to come in? Councillor Ellis? You're muted.
Voice now. Through an oral, yeah. Our fish hatchery road, we talked about that over the winter time, and we were looking for the number of parties that need to play a role in it. We're crowding into summer weather and we're still no further ahead. So I would like an update next council meeting if we can.
Yep, Bob's been working with M&R, and if we could get a report back next meeting, that would be good. Bob? Okay, do you want to make that a motion that we direct staff to bring back a report for Fish Hatchery Road? Moved by Councillor Ellis. Is there a seconder there? Councillor Webb? Any questions or comments? All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, so next we move into bylaws, and we didn't deal with the other bylaws. There was 4 of them, so we'll and like I say, I don't have a pen, so bear with me here. The mill bylaw there, that was deferred. Okay, do you need a motion to defer it again, Bob, or is that? Bob, do you need a motion to defer it again, or it was deferred from the?
Yes, through you, Mayor, I was just double checking my notes on there.
Yeah, you're gonna have
Yes,
to
that
help me.
one. It was deferred in the public meeting, so yes, we should take another motion to defer the bylaw.
Okay. Moved by Councillor Webb, seconder. Councillor Pomeroy, all in favor? And that's carried. Dave always told me how important a pen was, but it's not happening here without one. So anyways, the next one we have is Grattan, J.R. Grattan, with regards to their bylaw 2021-026 zoning bylaw amendment. Moved by Councillor Webb that we approve, seconded by Councillor Ellis. All in favor? And that's carried. Next is Spears Bylaw 2021-027 zoning bylaw amendment. Motion to move that one. Moved by Councillor Ellis, seconded by Councillor Webb. All in favor? And that's carried. And the next one was motion to deny the Sutton zoning bylaw amendment, or to move it to the, yeah, it was denied, wasn't it, Bob? Yeah. Look for a motion. Moved by Deputy Mayor Giroux, seconded by Councillor Webb. All in favor? And that's carried. Bylaw to appoint a weed inspector. This is something we do every year with. Look for a motion for that. That's to do the noxious weeds. Moved by Councillor Pomeroy, seconded by Deputy Mayor Giroux. All in favor? Carried. The grant transfer payment for the fire safety. Motion to approve that. Councillor Pomeroy, Councillor Ellis, all in favor? Carried. And acquisition of bylaw for 116 County Road 46, McLaughlin and Clement, Midtown Auto. Motion for that, moved by Councillor Webb. Seconder, Deputy Mayor Giroux, all in favor? And that's carried. All right. That's the end of the bylaws. And the next one is a confirming bylaw. Moved by Councillor Webb, seconded by Deputy Mayor Giroux to confirm the proceedings today. And the next one is adjournment, 12:30. I think we went over. Moved by Councillor Pomeroy to adjourn, seconded by Councillor Ellis, all in favor, and that's carried.